how it works demonstration. The secret to Harbor Town is the wooden jetty system. This is the wooden jetty unit that we've sold for many years, and it is included in the Harbor Town. What we've added to it this time is a new jetty, which is somewhat shorter than the other one and doesn't have the end pilings on it. And the reason for this jetty is that it has the ability to slide under some of the taller wooden jetties, and not just at straight angles or square angles, but even at odd angles. And by adding other jetties, you get to have a convoluted, complex wooden jetty system. Adding to this, you would have jetties that rise and fall from the heights of the other jetties. We have ramshackly jetties. We have collapsing jetties, large platforms to act as connecting pieces, triangular connecting pieces. So you would have a tremendous amount of flexibility in the two-dimensional layout of your harbor town. In addition, we have the buildings, and the buildings connect to the wharf system by using stairs. Then you put jetties off the stairs. We make 4 different stair units for you. You also connect the buildings to the stair units using one of our bridges. And you have 4 different style and different length bridges to work with. And so let's look at the buildings for just a second. One of the larger buildings in the piece, this is the Causeway Gatehouse. Opens up, the roof comes off, the interior floor comes out like normal MBA buildings. The idea here is that with a causeway coming out from the land, you would drive across in your buggy or carriage or on horseback. There's a drawbridge that comes with it, so you can secure things, drop it down and be open for traffic. That's the Causeway Gatehouse. And this is the boatman's house, where one of the working class people in town might live. It's open underneath, so he can park his boat underneath at night. Rotates all the way around, roof comes off, interior floor comes out, this little roof comes off as well. Now this would attach to the rest of Harbor Town normally by the use of a stair, or perhaps the use of a bridge linking it to another building entirely. And this is the widow's house. It has a nice turreted corner on it. It has a balcony that runs all the way around the perimeter. Again, open underneath, so boats can slip in and out. Stairs leading up, removable roof. The floor on this one is attached to the inside. You can connect this to the rest of the town again with a stair unit, or by bridges to another building completely. And this is the merchant's house. This is a little nicer than the other residents in town. He must be a fairly wealthy man. We've got a nice big balcony up here, a nice landing area down below, since I suspect that he has materials stored in the bottom level. Interesting architectural detail down the back. You have an exit out here. You can run a bridge out to another building. This is the fisherman's shack. A rather humble place for a hard-working, humble fisherman. So you can see it's well detailed on the outside with accessories related to the fishing trade. You've got nets hanging on several sides. The roof comes off, so you have full accessibility to the inside. Connect this with a wharf, something like that, or even like that. An even more modest home might be the crone's shack here. Very weather-beaten, holes in the roof on the back side, as you can see here. But she does raise flowers and sell fruits and vegetables and things like that. The roof comes off, so you have accessibility to the inside. Connect it to the town, again, using a wharf. And this is the warehouse. A working building.
Yeah.
You've got
Not sure if we were supposed to say anything
It's just
or
a
not.
place where you store stuff or steal stuff.
Library time.
Whatever you need to do. You could connect it with jetties like this, or however
mention,
works
look at
best
that
for you.
house.
And this is the ruined townhouse. Harbor Town is a coastal town, and it gets battered and beaten up by storms. And a fire or a storm took this poor guy's home and smashed it to pieces.
No, I
This
think
is
he's
the
using
guard tower.
XSplit,
This would be a place to put a
so he's
maybe a
just
large
muted
weapon on the
everyone
top.
else.
It's accessible. The
Ah,
roof comes
yeah.
off,
Yeah, you can
floor
mute
comes
all
out.
that.
Yeah.
The connectors for this would run off either to another building or by stairs or bridges to something like that. You also do have a door down here at the ground level, so you could simply, water level, excuse me, you could simply put a wharf up against it. And this is the market pavilion where the day's trade and business would be conducted. It's very simple and straightforward. Because being a hexagonal shape, that would allow your wharves and jetties to run off in all sorts of interesting angles. And this is the little fire alarm pavilion. As you can see, it has a little bell underneath it. And if the town is under attack by monsters or sea people or dragons, or there happens to be a fire or something like that, this is where
I'll go to the really cool vid in a minute.
it could either be
The
side the jetty,
Mega Stream
on
vid.
top of a jetty, it could be at one of the connecting units. So very
And we'll get
flexible.
cranking.
Nice detail. This is Harbor Town's very own version of the water shack, which we've had available for many years for Harbor Town. We've added a new shingle roof to make it a little bit different than the previous versions and to match the look of the rest of Harbor Town. This is the lighthouse for Harbor Town, almost 17 inches tall, so it's a very big piece of equipment. There's enough room on the platform up here to put figures on a 25 millimeter basis, so you can put guys up here. We've got room down here. It's fully detailed all the way around. The top lifts off, and you can see the stairway that winds down the inside of it. And because no town would be complete without a tavern, welcome to the Lucky Kraken Tavern, Harbor Town's very own eating and drinking establishment. It is accessible under here, so you can set out some tables and chairs if you wish. The roof comes off here, the interior floor comes out here. Whether the tavern keeps
That's a blast. Oh my gosh, there's a seventh person. That's going to be a blast, isn't it? Hello, everyone. And we had our special guest did make it. Tim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh my gosh. So we have 7 now on. And welcome, everyone. I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba. I got a treat for you tonight. We've been planning this for a couple months now. And I'm so honored to have a lot of special guests tonight. So we're going to go around and we're going to do a little background for everyone. Let's start off with Anna. Go ahead, Anna. Tell us a little about yourself, please.
Hi, yeah. Thank you. First, thank you so much for having me. I'm Anna B. Meyer, and I do Greyhawk maps, and I guess that's what I'm mainly known for. And I do a lot of other maps too, but the Greyhawk maps have been my kind of mainstay for 20 years now.
Excellent, excellent. Go ahead, Ian.
I'm Ian. I run some games in 5th edition over on Forseti D&D. And I'm pretty humbled to be here with you guys.
Yeah, boy, come on, man. Yeah, like I said, we'll talk as we go, but you don't need no need to be humbled, man. You do a great job. Go ahead, Will.
Hi, I'm Will DM. I'm the Dungeon Master for Return to the Bandit Kingdoms over on Wicked Studios LLC on Twitch and other stuff on that same channel.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Go ahead, Mark. No sound, Mark. No sound. No sound. There you go.
There we go. Pardon me. My name is DM Marco. I've been playing for well over 40 years now. And essentially, I am originally a player with Jay and Tim many years ago as we were kids. And then started doing my own DMing basically about maybe 30 plus years ago. So 1E, 2E guy here.
Skygith, welcome. Tell us about yourself.
Hello. I'm doing different sorts of RPGs over at my channel. I've been playing for like 30-something years. Started like in the 80s somewhere. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. And last but not least, our special surprise guest, Tim, the elusive Tim. Go for it, man.
Hi, how are you? I'm Tim. I've been playing D&D. Started out with my father probably over 40 years ago. I was in 3rd grade and I'm 50 now, so dangerous to do math in public, so we're just going to leave it like that.
Right.
I had the pleasure of gaming with Jay in the I won't say the earliest years, but joined him in junior high, I think. And so
yeah, we'll tell that story again. We always tell the how I met Tim and the first thing he ever said to me story, which I'm gonna pop on some of our new latest things. But yeah, so it's always one of the best stories ever, and it's like, huh? Yeah, but all right, so we're gonna do it quickly now. Listen, audience, we are going to have a lot of time for some question and answers. Please pop them out, and we will answer them. If someone's in the middle of a conversation, we'll get to it right after it's over. But I want full participation from the audience. This whole thing is for like Naz and Rox and all the guys out there that watch us that are new DMs and want advice and want some perspective besides me, because everyone thinks I'm an asshole. So
Welcome to my world.
Yeah,
Not everyone, just most people, Jack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
not everybody, just most.
we're gonna do this. I got a couple questions for everyone. We'll start with Anna. This is for everyone. Where did you get your DMing inspiration from in your life?
I get it from politics, from books, So because I play a lot of sandboxy games with a lot of political intrigue and stuff. So I take inspiration from the real world, from politics and from movies and books and stuff, of course. But I also want my world to feel like my campaign to feel like it's a living world that actually functions. So it's very different from the real world, of course, because there's like magic and dragons and undeads and all sorts of stuff that is not in the real world. But I want it to make sense, meaning the economy should work, dragons are there for a reason, and the rest of the world have to kind of suffer through it, so to speak. So I use a lot of the kind of intrigue and how power works. I read my Machiavelli and stuff like that. So I use a lot of that in my gaming, very much that way.
Excellent. And by the way, you're Pathfinder 2 now, right? That's what you're playing.
Well, yeah, I started to play a little bit with Pathfinder. So I'm the last full campaign I ran, I used Pathfinder rules, and now I'm soon starting to gear up. So I'll see if I run another one in Pathfinder or if I switch to Pathfinder 2. I'm looking for D&D 5th edition as well, but I think I will. It's leaning towards PF2 in the future. So,
excellent. Yeah. All right, Ian, give us your DMing inspiration, man.
Books and movies too.
Okay.
I just started, I think I actually have it on my desk over here somewhere. I just started The Black Company.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Yeah. I'm on the 3rd book already. I started that like 3 weeks ago.
Bill the Master Crafter, Bill Haley, our guy who does all our training, he's a huge Black Company person. Loves them. That's great.
It's really good.
Yeah, and they're all they're neutral at best. The people in those books. So that's a good one, man. Absolutely. How about you, Will?
For me,
your inspiration, yeah, person, place,
inspiration-
thing.
I pull it from all kinds of different places, aka like I have
No sound.
there's the
We lost
Oh.
your sound. We're losing your sound.
Okay, how about that? You got me now?
You're in and out.
In and out.
You're crackling.
I'm gonna swap my headset, go to somebody else, and I'll be right back.
Skagith, we'll do you. Skagith, what do you think? What was your inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, like the most, I would probably take a lot from what you have read before in books, but also what other people have done. And I remember very early on, things that could start like in small embryo would always be like drawings that people have done, like fancy drawings or oil paintings, and getting like the idea of imagine being there or seeing that part or wonder what the backstory to it would be. Or so I would say both what I've read but also seen. So
Okay.
it's like a good mix between them.
Excellent, excellent. How about you, Mark?
So I would say actually where I get a lot of my inspiration from is just regular life experience, either things that have happened in my life or people that I'm acquainted with, or even just things that happen in the news as well. Obviously just like every other DM, you've read the Lord of the Rings books or the Narnia books, were always a heavy favorite of mine growing up. But I always like the idea of bringing in real emotion into it. That obviously we're playing characters and telling a story, but I mean it's based upon real life to a degree, with the exception, of course, like what Anna said. We're talking about magic and dragons and things of that nature. But I think that if you go back to what it is that you've experienced, you get to put a lot of that into your DMing.
Absolutely. And for me, by the way, I didn't say my background. Jay, we've been doing 1E, 2E since 1978, whenever that came out. Played a little basic before that, and our campaign now is 39 years old, since 1980. We've been playing. Mark joined me in 83, but Tim and Walt, and Tim's having some technical family things he's going to be on and off. Started with me that 1980 year, and they played in the first ever logged adventure we ever did, but going back that far. So that's how long I've known all these gentlemen here, and it's like friendships grow from playing the game, and that's the great thing, You keep friendships for life, playing Dungeons and Dragons. But for me, my inspiration is a combination of things, and it's real life instances. But I wanted him on for this, but I really respect the hell of what Tim has done in some of his crazy aspects of his campaigns. I love some of the stuff he's worked on and some of the graphically descriptive crazy stuff he's done. And so I'm going to say that one of my greatest inspirations was Tim himself, learning from him when I was in that high school era. Because in the Monty Hall days, and everyone's had a Monty Hall day. And if you know what we're talking about, Monty Hall. And you don't know what the hell you're doing back then, but then you kind of grow your own way. And he kind of helped me with that to decide to, go right direction. So, like I said, I'd say Tim's probably one of my top ones as far as inspiration goes. Cool with that one. How about this? Now, this one's a little tricky. All right, so get everyone's feel for what they like.
Can you hear? Can you
Yes,
hear me now?
go for it.
Okay, cool.
There we go.
Perfect, much better. Will, what's your inspiration, man?
My inspiration from when I'm actually DMing actually comes from the players, because one of my favorite things to do is there's different things that each one of my players will either really dislike or something that makes them uneasy or queasy. Let's just say, like, if somebody was afraid of snakes, then I put snakes in there. I try to things that they either don't like or something that if a particular character had a crush on somebody, well, then I'm going to bring that into the storyline. So I'm constantly looking at those guys. But then the other thing would be from media, and it's mostly from books. And I get huge amount of inspiration from reading modules. Like back in the day when I first started, that was my number one thing. I would buy modules, never would generally run the actual module, but I'd plow through and go, I like that, and then you take it and you smorgasbord it all together. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Like I said, we all have different ways of getting inspired, doing it, because you need to be. Because if you're not inspired to DM, it's gonna show. And I'll tell you a real quick side story. When I played World of Warcraft, and Brian knows this, from 2004 to like 2008, my DMing suffered during that time because I was spending, I almost got divorced over it too. Don't let her hear that, but it was, you need to spend time to be a good DM. You need to do your research. You need to, winging it only works to some certain extent. There's a difference between ad lib in a conversation and winging an adventure. There's a whole huge difference between those. So you really, that's something you can't do. So.
I got mistaken yesterday for taking notes. I was watching Extra Credits History on YouTube, and someone was like, "Oh, are you taking notes for class?" Because I'm in college, and I was like, "No, I'm taking notes for Dungeons and Dragons."
As it should be.
Oops.
Nope. Now we lost you, Jay.
Yep.
So, lost your sound, Jay. No sound.
I'll keep my mic off a lot of times so we don't have a reverb issue, okay? I know I don't have a headset. I know I should have one, but it just, I get all weird.
All the cool kids wear them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait a minute. So these are a bunch of D&D guys. I don't know about being cold.
You're going to trump that cool thing, right?
I'm moving my mic as far away from the sound. I'm going to turn my sound down too. That may help as well. So next question, and if you guys want to think of one yourselves, that's good. Your favorite campaign setting beyond the one you currently run and why? Anna.
My favorite one will be one that I haven't actually run a game in, but I'm kind of intrigued, and that's Dark Sun.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it's close. The Birthright and Dark Sun are the ones, and I'm not really sure. I haven't run games. I played in them a bit, but those two, Greyhawk is my favorite. But the two that comes close second are Dark Sun and Birthright. They are both, and they kind of. I love Birthright because it's kind of you play different kingdoms and those rules. But I've kind of taken all the way to play campaigns in Birthright and incorporated them into my Greyhawk campaign, so I don't miss it that much. That's why I think that Dark Sun is kind of interesting. In apocalypse, deserty, kind of cool. That is kind of off the rails fantasy for a bit. That intrigues me a bit.
I like it because halflings are cannibals in Dark Sun.
Right? That's cool.
So that's the one. I've only played a few games, but if there's one I'm curious about, that's Dark Sun. Yeah.
Excellent. How about you, Ian?
My friend's dad, who's about all your guys' age, he got me on Greyhawk. That's what I started on. But I haven't run a game in Greyhawk before. I run my own setting.
You do? It's awesome.
I like Planescape a lot, which is fun, super fun. But it's kind of like out there, like the adventurers are traveling in the outer planes, so anyone that comes in like expects to be like talking with angels and stuff. But I'm like, no, you're just a mortal. So normally I just have them running around like this city, the sigil, the city of doors.
Right.
And they're like, oh well, we're gonna be doing all this cool extra planar stuff, and normally I'm just, no, you're just trapped here.
Like
I run more low
Ravenloft.
fantasy games, but there's a lot of.
I love your settings. I know it, man. You guys are great. So you guys got some good, really cool ideas, and that's just it excites me to see you guys developed them from scratch. I'm assuming too. So that's just so awesome. You guys are. I've always, like I said, Greyhawk to the end here. Skagith, we'll bounce around. How about you, Skagith? What do you think?
I've always wanted to do, I talked to Sprocket about that. I wanted to do like a samurai setting. That would be kind of cool. Some ideas have always bounced around, like the Seven Samurai, do something along those lines. That would be kind of cool.
Nice, man. Nice.
Not really sure what to do with it, but I don't know. It would be kind of cool.
Excellent, man. I know you come up with a lot of, you bounce around so much. I guarantee you that if you put you'll get it done, man. You'll be like thinking out the system and all and doing it if you get enough of your guys together. That sounds like a blast, man. I'd watch it, absolutely. Okay, Will, what about you, man?
Hyperborea, man.
Yeah.
Conan. I've run there before. I've played there before. I really like I like the darkness of it all, it has all the aspects of fantasy, but it's pulp fantasy, so it's not high fantasy. And I really like that setting. If we were talking about something that I'm going to be running, because I prefer to, believe it or not, play in the Conan area,
Right.
I want to do a science fantasy game. Something like Thundar the Barbarian.
Oh, into the muck. Princess Ariel.
That's
That's a blast from the past.
That's for a little cute. That's quite possibly going to be the third stream on the Wicked channel.
Did you see? Well, if you watched True Detective, they found a character sheet, Thundar the Barbarian, in D&D.
Did they really?
Yeah, yeah, in True Detective. So, yeah.
See, now I'm going to have to Google that.
Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's priceless. I love that cartoon. Mark, well, how about you? You say the one I'm going to say, I'm going to beat you.
So mine is, if people have been watching on Thursdays and so forth, know me enough to know Dragonlance. I am a huge Dragonlance fan. Much to Jay's chagrin, he actually started me down that path, so it's really his fault. He started with the first 3 modules, and he's like, "Man, these things suck." He pulled out of it, and I actually picked up the books, and I started reading the books, and just fell in love with the whole campaign setting.
Tell them why.
Just because you just didn't like it.
No, but tell them the crossover quirk of our world.
Well, yeah, that's because nobody likes them. You just can't stand Tannis.
Yeah, but see, here's what happened. We did so his character Swain was getting all chummy with Lorana. Okay,
Yep.
Before it was like in DL3. And so they were all getting friendly, and then I was like, I'm going to kill myself. I can't do this anymore. I hate this. I hate fisting whatever. And I hate throwing the snowballs. I can't take it. I can't take Tika Whalen. I can't take it. And so we went back, through the portal back to Greyhawk, and I did three of those. And Lorana came back, so who knows what that did to their Dragonlance world. So his character actually wed Lorana, and all of Swain's kids are actually Lorana. It's bizarre. So if anyone knows the most hated NPC in the game besides Michael Baton, which is Mark's, Gilfinus Markham is actually the son of Lorana and Swain. That everyone despises so much. So that's just that quirk of the dragon of the world.
How can you dislike Kender? Because that's all I heard.
Oh. I can't do it.
Like Kender.
I can't do it.
Right?
Yeah.
I just don't know. But for me, okay, here we go. I'm kissing. They call me Tim Below's butt again. Tim ran this unbelievable campaign based around remember the city-state of the Invincible Overlord? And the city-state of the World Emperor came up before that. The Judges Guild, a huge set. I bet you Sprocket has it. The city-state of Invincible, the World Emperor. Tim ran this thing, and there were all the nobles out in the estates, and we all had 2 characters. I had Dervilia, and I had Kixano. Mark had Penul and Greenleaf, and it was such a cool campaign setting. He did such a great job with it. It was very localized to that city-state, but it was a blast. And I would love, to get back together and continue to play that now. And there were some unbelievable stories. So Naz came up with an idea on a story time Gabbin in a couple of weeks. We'll save our stories for that time, Mark. But that was just it was just a great setting, and I loved playing in it. So let me see. We got any audience questions yet? But I got some more here.
Yeah, there's a couple up there.
All right. Okay, here's a good one. How do you plan the end of a campaign? I'm going to start with that, Rox. Let me take that first off. You don't. Okay? In my opinion, Greyhawk's not going to end. You're talking about characters, not campaigns. So go move to another set of characters. Rox, if you should be watching what we do, we have our high levels now interacting with our lows. We have grandkids almost adventuring now. You never if your campaign's good, it'll never end. What do you think, Anna, on that question?
Yeah, I was just saying, I never planned the end of a campaign, which is both a merit and a big problem because my campaigns, just like yours, went on for years, and then my gaming group shattered and it kind of ended, and I simply started planning the next campaign from where the old one picked up or left off, and I kind of screwed myself over because the players kind of lost interest and some came and went, and then after like 6-7 years I had a new set of players and they didn't have a clue on how this started, and some of them are taking over the old characters and stuff. So I'm actually going, my next set of my campaign is actually the first one I'm kind of planning, and I will run what I would call a mini campaign, 5-6 sessions tops, 4 to 6 sessions, that's it. And it will be
cool.
They will be characters that already have an established role in the campaign world, and they will go on a mission that will last a bit, and then we will end it.
So it's finite. It's a finite.
Yes,
campaign.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
So that
It's
just so I
really
can.
neat idea.
Yeah. So I don't paint myself in a corner where I get burnout and players leave me and so on and so forth. And also that way I can circulate, because now I know when I announce it, I will have 50 players who want to play in my campaign. That means that I can kind of
Pick and
6
choose.
players the first time and then go on for a month or two and then play with the new set of players and find out something. But the problem for the players is that then the focus will not be about character advancement. They might advance 1-2 levels, that will be it. So it will be more for the players to get a feel for my version of Greyhawk rather than to develop their character for years to come. So
Awesome.
yeah, so that's my idea take on ending campaigns, so to speak.
How about you, Ian? Is your campaign ever going to end? Are you going to run with that, or what do you think?
Well, I run a very like sandbox style game,
Yes, you
so
do.
I've never planned. I agree with you guys. I've never planned an end. I think at most I've planned what a certain villain's ultimate goal is, but I mean,
Yeah.
the villain isn't like rarely has there been a villain strong enough to like be an end of world situation. I even have a player in my game right now who's already planned. She's like, well, when I'm done, when I retire my character, and they use that a lot. Like, I used to talk about my Greyhawk character. He got so powerful to a point where our DM was afraid anything he threw at us was just going to either kill us or we'd mow it over. So we ended up retiring the characters.
Right, but not ending the campaign. You know.
Yeah, but not ending the campaign.
Right,
like,
exactly.
They're still there. But
Exactly.
if they were to retire their characters, I would kind of run them as an NPC, and if I wasn't sure what they would do, I'd ask that person. Like, I've texted a few people that I now live far away from. I'm like, hey, what do you think? Your character's up to? And then I do have a player in my game right now who's it's Lauren actually. She said, when I retire my character, the desert elf Nazili, I want to play her daughter. So
That's fantastic. Generational stuff. How about you, Skagith?
I would say that I am a little bit different in the way that I do approach kind of GMing out of like a systematic view. I do like to see it in sort of a chain. If this is happening, this could happen, and kind of like spreading across different scenarios. Not too much intrigued or too much complexity to it, but I do want it to be in like a small steps. So the ending could be of a smaller enemy dying off maybe, or the players learning a small secret that will then transcend them onwards to a bigger plot. So I do plan for an ending of a campaign, but that one will always transcend into another one, sort of.
That's
So it will
awesome.
never really end, but it will give them some sort of a closure at least.
How about you? And Will, how about you guys? No, that's cool, Skagith.
Well, I was trying to look through the chat there to see who had asked the question.
Rox did. Roxafarius.
Rocks. Okay, so my recommendation is actually to go, excuse me, and get a copy of Pendragon, the role-playing game from Chaosium. Pendragon has a very cool built-in, and I'm pretty sure there's been several games, especially now with everything going retro, that has included this, where part of they have they have the adventuring time, and then they have what they call the winter period, or like your downtime. And during that downtime, basically what you did is you role played through charts and stuff. You didn't actually do the actual role playing. Your family, your life events, and then your kids would come into it. And it's sort of like you're talking about where you play your kids, but it had a great system locked in where you had all these different interactions that were going in. So it automatically builds in a backstory for your characters, builds in different types of interactions, builds in if you get married, if you have kids, if you adopt kids. Those kids will then, of course, now in Pendragon, it goes by a very linear, so it looks like your characters are aging as it goes along. But then they'll come to a point where these different kids will be growing up, and it just adds a whole nother aspect to it. So basically, it takes that, I don't end the campaign, I continue the campaign on through all this other material that's getting built up while your character's adventuring. So when the time comes, you can go, well, hey, I want to do something different, or I would like to play somebody different. You already have all this wealth of information and knowledge that's there that you just go and you pick out, because it's already been generated as you've played along. So I highly recommend it.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a great game. It's a really good game, Pendragon.
Great.
I remember you could kind of roll, like you're saying, and you could see that your farms are now being a little bit giving less, and there is now a plague close by, and they're giving you so much that it's kind of like, wow.
It was kind of like the Oregon Trail game from the school for your D&D characters or whatnot. I mean, this is, and the system is because it doesn't actually take place with any of the combat or anything. You could just go straight into Pendragon, just pull that out and use it. You don't have to worry about anything else as far as, well, this is 5e or this is 2e, this is D&D, that's Chaosium, none of that stuff. So I highly recommend that.
Oh, and Mark, you want to add anything to that?
I mean, I guess the only thing I would add is that I don't think you ever plan on an end of a campaign. I think that life in and of itself just kind of takes over. Very similar to what Anna was talking about. It's your group that really ends more than anything else.
Yeah.
You'll change out maybe different players and so forth. And I've had all sorts of different campaigns start and end just because the players, for whatever reason, either I moved away or they moved away, or different time periods in your life that you have life events that just take over and you just can't any longer. So when Mark moved to Ohio, there was a gap of like 6 years when he didn't play till we figured out, hey, let's use this stupid iPad and FaceTime him in when it always disconnected and we have to reconnect 10 times, and we were just using that till the beginning of this year. So. Yeah.
But there is one type of ending that I think is highly underrated. That's TPK. TPK can be seen as this horrible ending, and the party got wiped out by the dragon or the lich or whatever it was, or got lost out somewhere. But that can actually be a glorious end, meaning that they got to the top, so to speak, and they kind of really, it could be an earth. Characters, I've had characters being slain in games and died, and that could be some of the best sessions I've ever had. And
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Right, Jay?
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way: when you sit around, you start throwing around stories about D&D. I mean, TPKs come up like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, so there was this one time.
Yeah.
And that's don't ever think of a party wipe or losing a character as a bad thing.
No.
If it's done within the story and it's done within your group, sure, it sucks if you really enjoy your character, but I mean, you just got something that you're going to look back on and talk about, and who knows what else you can build off of that. So.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. Our recent re-addition to our group, Tom, and everyone loves Tom, right? On the show, who he played back in '87 and then played on and off. It's come back on a regular basis now. Asked the question, who's named their own campaign world? And I know, Ian, you and Owen's are unique, right? You guys made those up?
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I have actually, I was moving my notes from a physical binder to OneNote. I love OneNote now.
Okay, cool.
I kind of took everything I like about low, gritty fantasy and threw it into a setting.
Cool. What's the name of yours?
Well, the continent that they're playing on is Forseti, but I guess that's what I like first started calling it.
Right.
But I came up with a world name way later that like the powerful wizards that live there would refer to the world as Aeonia.
Okay.
But
That's cool.
I don't know. A lot of people are like, well, what's so different? What's different about your campaign? I'm like, it's just a low, gritty fantasy world. It's got 2 moons, so.
Actually, believe it or not, low fantasy is a very big difference right now because high fantasy is the rage currently.
High fantasy is in, and a lot of my players, when they first come, they're like, I'm gonna play this. I had a Furbolg player, and I was like, I don't know what a Furbolg is, and I like looked through the 5e book, and I'm like, oh, all right, people are gonna look at you really weird.
Yeah. You bring up something that I had to deal with in Return to the Bandit Kingdoms because one of the characters that first started off the series played a Furbolg. And I'm like, okay, how do I take this interpretation of what he wants and try and put it into Greyhawk?
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and I've had other characters, want to play other things that's like, okay, you realize that doesn't really exist in Greyhawk at how it is. We can do it, but this is how it's going to have to be, and it's the same thing. It's like,
No, that's what my tier 3 subscription head, the no just no with the guy picking his nose is for. You just say no just no on certain things. That's what that's for. So,
Hey, 3 years I've had 1 human player, and on top of that he was like, well, I want to be a human. I was like, oh, cool, awesome. I was like, but I used to be a dog.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
Oh, I like that.
Skag, have you ever done any unique worlds you've named stuff on to finish that question up?
Yeah, I've done some. Some have been more worked into, and some have been more suited for the campaign or wherever we went with that sort of sessions or summers playing. So both yes and kind of yes.
Cool. That's cool.
There's a good question in chat from the Nazareth.
Yeah, and that's one of our original 6-month subscribers now that we've been going on there. He's got one of those silver swords out there. So what was it? Let me see. Or is he busting my stones like he always does? So
don't you think that the Game of Thrones has sparked popularity in low magic?
Well, and Naz, from our game, I'll answer this quickly, is that Bill ripped off a class. We have a Maester now, which is ripped off right from Game of Thrones. So we just incorporated that in our game. We didn't change our system or anything. So maybe with new games, but Greyhawk, that wouldn't work in Greyhawk, So what do you think, Mark, on that response on that?
I think that to a degree, it's probably sparked more of an interest in gaming more than anything else. So, we were talking even before we came on, all of us were gathered up and we were discussing about the whole concept about, now walking around with D&D shirts and people are like asking you questions, whereas before, you were like avoiding people if you actually wore it because, back in our and so I think the concept is you have shows that come out that really kind of spark that interest. So think about even something as simple as Big Bang Theory. I mean, those guys walking around in all of their quote unquote geek T-shirts and stuff, and playing Dungeons and Dragons and playing Settlers of Catan and so forth. I think that has really sparked the interest. And I like to say all the time, way back when we talked about, people made fun of you because you were a player, and it was like, well, guess what? Someday you're going to be working for us, and that's exactly what's happened. Is you had those mindsets really come to the forefront, and we're the real popular crowd nowadays.
No, we're not. No.
I think Game of Thrones has a certain appeal, and like you said, it brings people in. But I don't think it really inspires the low magic. I think because once you get the idea that you're going to play Dungeons and Dragons, you walk in, you start looking what's out there, you go Google it, and then you get bombarded with all this new streaming and media that's out there, and all of that stuff's high fantasy.
Yeah.
I mean, you really got to go dig to find your low fantasy gritty type stuff. And I mean, because if you just start naming off all the popular streams, that's all high fantasy stuff.
Yeah, none of it has the like the political like intrigue of the Game of Thrones, nor I mean, you don't go watching any of the like really popular D&D channels expecting someone to end up getting killed just because they were stabbed through with a sword.
Yeah.
I mean, on Critical Role, there was a whole like I don't remember, one of the characters like died, and there was like the internet like broke for a moment there.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of waiting to see what happened with Matt Colville's, which is supposed to start this coming Wednesday. Now he said, and I'm going to hold his feet to the fire on this and see if it happened. He said that basically the new stream that he was going to do was influenced by the Black Company, something that we were just shown, okay? And that he said that his players had decided that was something that they wanted to do. And I got real excited. I was like, well, let's see. Okay, if you can actually do that and bring it in, I think that'd be fabulous. You know, by just the simple fact of detracting, you're going to make it unique. So,
That's all great points. On another influence, I know we're talking about Game of Thrones. Which one influenced more D&D participation, that or Stranger Things?
Ooh.
I actually got a third one.
Okay.
I think Roll20.
Yes. Yep.
I think Roll20 has had the most impact with bringing gamers into the to gaming recently than anything else, because people see this stuff. They see it on Stranger Things, see it on Big Bang, whatnot. They Google it, they look it up. Roll20 pops up, and Roll20 is so accessible that anybody anywhere can play D&D.
Yep.
I think I see a Tim head in the dark lurking there. It's kind of a spooky look there. So.
Yeah, I have my apologies. I'm nurse, daddy, and now chauffeur this evening. So,
you're in the car? Oh, that's awesome. All right, well, here's the next question, Tim, and this one's specifically for you. Okay? And then we'll take another one from the audience after this.
Here, let me get my lighting. Here's some more lighting. How's that?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh man, yeah. At least you're not wearing those stupid horns like you did the other time. So, gameplay balance. What do you do when you have a gameplay balance issue? How do you address it? So let's start with Ian on that, and we'll go Anna second. We'll go counterclockwise this time. Ian.
Oh man. Okay, gameplay balance. Are we saying the players are too powerful or something?
You're like, oh my god, this is crazy. So the rules just don't work for me. What do you think?
Okay, 5e has like this whole like CR difficulty rating, and I kind of just ignore it completely. Because once you know how many goblins the party can deal with, you kind of got it from there on.
Right, yeah.
But I always plan like way more. I don't think I've ever thrown anything at the players that they haven't like been able to beat. I make these horrible mean encounters, and then they end up just like pulling through. Anyways, so
that's good though. I mean, that's a good thing.
That just shows how good of a DM it is that you are, actually.
Yeah, that's a good thing, man. Yeah. Success is a good thing, man, for the characters. I always say it's not the DM trying to DM's crushing fist all the time on the players. Like I did to Mark in the 80s all the time. I feel bad. I killed off like 300 of his characters. But it's just you want your players to succeed. You want them to be excited about it. What do you think, Skageth, on the gameplay issue?
I think that depends on when it comes up, right? I mean, if you know about this sort of ability, like someone says in the chat about dark vision, you know that it's kind of strange and OP or whatever you want to have it. Then you can address it with the player straight on and say like, this ability or this skill or this weapon or whatever it is, we're not going to play with it, or this is not something I want to have in my game. Otherwise, a lot of the times when it's kind of come up, I feel that the connection I at least have had with the players have been so good in a way that I could fairly easily either divert them away from it or basically just talk to them. I think that the best kind of advice any GM or any player or anyone in RPGs can give to each other is talk to each other. If there is any problem you're encountering with another player, talk to the GM about it, talk to someone, don't just bundle it up. So my biggest advice to anyone is just to talk to each other about whatever it might be.
So, Tim's driving. Tim, tell the story real quick of how you resolved an issue with a box. Oh, he can't hear me. Oh, there he is.
No, I can hear you.
The box.
To resolve the issue with a box?
The box you gave to Dervilia and all them. With the wrapping. He doesn't remember.
I'm actually I'm coming up blank here. I know that we've had a Mordenkainen's disjunction before, and
yeah.
I've also done a lot of fireball, everything make a saving throw.
So Tim sent everyone a package.
I did that to fencing.
Yeah. Well, fencing just showed up Thursday night, man. So what he did was he sent a package to the whole group, and they're like, "Oh, what's this? What's this?" Opened it up, and all this confetti went poof. It was a Mordenkainen's disjunction spell. Does anyone know what that does at night? It's a 9th level spell. It completely destroys all your magic items. Yeah, that's how he resolved the gameplay balance in his campaign. So yeah, absolutely.
It's a little plain, just.
Yeah, it was definitely a momentous occasion I'll never forget. So what about you, Will, on gameplay?
Well, I'm notorious, actually. I don't really do a lot of balance in the sense of traditional. It's okay, this is the party, this is their level, this is the type of monsters I can throw at them. I do, this is where you're at, this is what's supposed to be in this area, and then this is what you encounter, which generally runs into, especially as the characters start going up in level, where they steamroll through a bunch of stuff. Now, normally you're going to say, well, where's the fun in that? And there isn't a lot of fun in a super easy win, but also what it tends to do is it builds up. The players don't tend to see it coming when they get slapped in the face because they're so used to different things being different ways that when they run into something that is as bad as it's supposed to be, they're not ready for it, and they're not prepared for it, and they haven't trained themselves to be ready for it. I've been trying to, like, all the players that are in Return to the Bandit Kingdoms are not Greyhawk regulars. There's some of them that they have a skim knowledge of Greyhawk, but they don't have a big knowledge. And I've been trying to impress upon them just how powerful IUs really is. Because they're like, it's just some, half demon guy, no big deal, blah, blah, blah. Like, so you do realize that this guy's a demigod and he grants people the ability to be a cleric, okay? It's like, he's got power,
Yeah.
The same thing with the major bad guy, which it's out of the bag now, so I can go ahead and I can talk about it, is essentially the main bad guy in this current arc is Caractacus. And so...
I am Caractacus.
And they've been running into false Caractacus, which was introduced in Return to White Plume Mountain.
Oh, we know.
Yeah, so they've been dealing with all these different things, and they're not sure... And again, they just had when I did the bad guy interlude, they fought what they thought was a false Caractacus, and all of them have really been appearing in completely different from the book, but they're these big armored like knights. And so they beat this guy, he falls down, they hurry up, these were not the main characters, bad guys, and they teleport out, and then the chest plate opens up, some smoke pours out, the door kicks open off the chest of the defeated monster, and this gnome comes crawling out. And then, because I was doing a cinematic as the camera moves away, I just...
You're the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then this guy comes out from behind the shadows up to talk to the gnome, about what was going on, and
that's cool.
They still don't get this whole where the power is. So I think sometimes we take too much in trying to make sure that, well, we've got to make sure that this is really balanced. We got to really do that. I think what you should do more is take a look at what you will mess your players up. Like, if you've got a party that is full of fighters and when they reach a door, their main object is we kick it in, do something with that door. Just something as simple as that. have the door be completely false. There's nothing but dirt on the side of it, and just watch them spend, all this time trying to open up this door, and when they finally open it up, it's nothing but dirt.
So you're saying humble your players.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can I rebound off what Will just said?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I had that same player that was the human. None of my players. I actually introduced most of my players to playing D&D. They all thought, well, he's not going to put, for like the first year, he's not going to put anything in front of us that we can't, there's not going to be a solution to. But a big thing I like to do is random encounters when you're doing a hex crawl map. So we had a horrible, like 1% chance of this happening, but 3 hydras were rolled on, and they were like trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, I had to like stop the game. I was, there are some things that you are not going to be able to face down, and sometimes running is the option that you want to go for.
Yeah,
absolutely. How about you, Anna?
Well, I must say that I love you, Will. You run games just like I do. All the first you said, that was exactly what my playbook. Meaning, first of all, players who love to run adventure paths and are used to level appropriate encounters and stuff, they got screwed over in my campaign. They don't last long. they have rules lawyers and stuff like that, because how surviving in my campaigns is like you have to understand the world. And because if someone has wealth, it's only because they're able to defend it. And plus 5 swords are not hidden in the chest somewhere unused. It's wielded by someone who has a hell of a lot of powers who can hold on to it. And one of the perfect examples is that like 20 years ago, we played through the Greyhawk Wars, and the characters were in Fury and they came up to the area where the bit of battle. And that I had one, and they kind of were scouting around to kind of sneak across the lines, and they found an area that was kind of calm and quiet, and they walked around, and there were dead bodies everywhere. And they saw a lot of Furyuki knights, soldiers, and orcs, and whatnot everywhere. There was some goblins scurrying around, picking up things. And were like, yes, we're going to run off. So they ran off and chopped up the heads left and right on these goblins. And they didn't know, if they looked around, they could see a lot of Furyuki soldiers and very few Ayus. Meaning that was a battle that Ayus had won. They actually looked at the casualties and from the surroundings. What they didn't know was that it was Ayus crack troops, meaning the really beefy guys that won, and who was kind of waiting around and let their goblin helpers do the pickings. And afterwards, so they left one of the goblins laughing when he ran off, and don't skip on him, we had enough. And he ran off and told those 8 to 10 level barbarian orcs kind of characters who simply came and surrounded him, they came up, and the leader kind of looked at them and said, nah, that kind of, you stay away, and then told his second guy, you can go over and deal with it. And he stayed from the side, and the characters were like, oh, we can deal with him, he's just an orc. He was like, that's 2 hit dice. And he just walked over and took one of them and just cut the first characters in half. And on the first swing, and the characters, they were like 5th level, and the ones they met were like 8 to 14 or something like that. And they were like, what the hell do we do now? And they just ran for it. And 2 of them survived by simply running it, because they simply threw all the stuff, and the orcs said, well, threw everything, and we will see some new humans running around. That would be so much fun. And so they threw all the stuff and ran, and that's how they. So a lot of stuff like that. If you know and can kind of read the world and think about the game from that perspective, you could avoid a lot of the things, and you could kind of turn encounters on to more towards you pick the fight when it's suited for you, so to speak, rather than just think that, oh, go from one encounter to the other. It's because the way you play kind of shape what you run into. That's one thing.
Man, you guys are way nastier than I am. I guess I'm getting soft.
In order to compensate for it, I want the sweet spot in combat and stuff to be wider. So I've introduced a basic rule that flanking stacks. Meaning because one of the major problems in almost every edition of D&D, except maybe 5th edition, is that the low-level character can't even harm a high-level one. If you have a level 1 character and a level 10 character, the first level character can't even hit can even damage a 10th level character. So it's kind of appropriate. So I kind of took that stack flanking stacks and it do both on the 2-hit and damage. Meaning if you have 10 small lovely goblins, they can overpower almost anything. If you have lots of city guards and stuff, becomes much more dangerous and nasty. So and even the reached weapon becomes really necessary or kind of really effective. And that also means that battles, all of a sudden, formations, shield walls, and pole arms and stuff, just like in the movies, all of a sudden, when players have started to figure out that flanking works that way, all of a sudden my battles start looking like in the movies.
Yeah.
You flank, you do all that. That's number one. And secondly, I wanted the characters to kind of go downhill a long time before they die. So what happened is that when you reach 0 hit points, what happens is that you stagger until you reach if you have like 13 constitution, until from 0 to -13 you're staggered. So you have like 1 action instead of 2, but you can still fight and do everything. And then when you reach -13, then you're like helpless. And then when the 3rd time, so you can reach 3 times your like, what is it, like 28 or 32 or something like that. Then you go unconscious and start dying. So it's a long step from you actually getting kind of taken out of combat until you actually die. And that's because I wanted this sweet spot in combat, so you can actually be kind of taken prisoner. You can all sorts of things can happen.
Yeah.
So I wanted the sweet spot to be so my battles are grittier, and you can be cut down really quickly. But it's not that easy to die. So it's more up to the enemy if they actually kill you at the end, or if they just take you prisoner.
Cool.
And so that is my way of dealing with game balance. I can throw a lot of big ones after them, and they will not necessarily die, but they end up in the enemy hands or wake up bloody out in the forest somewhere the next day and stuff like that can happen. So I wanted to kind of ease it up, meaning it's battles are a lot tougher than normal in D&D rules, but they're also more as survivable as they are in normal rules.
Appreciate that, Anna. That's really great. Great
Really,
information.
really great insights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, what about we know we do, but what would you do?
So I don't. How do I put this? I don't want to make it seem that it's better in 1E than 5E by no stretch of the mind. But I think that one of the things that I preach to my players, because I have a newer group. For those of you who watch us on Monday nights.
Tomorrow night?
Yeah, I have tomorrow night actually. I have a newer group of players that they are not used to a 1E type of campaign and never really played before, so I'm introducing them to this. One of the things I've always preached is balance. So by nature, 1E really allows that balance to a degree when it comes to the kinds of characters it is that you can play. And there was a reason behind it, so that you didn't have like demi-humans that were running around with all sorts of extra special powers that they already get, which was one of the reasons why they had like level limits and things like that, that it was kind of naturally baked into the actual play style. So that's one thing. But I think the other thing is too, is that as a DM, you have to be very proactive about knowing what your players can really deal with and can't deal with. A lot of times if you start giving them, like it's very easy to get into what Jay and I like to call Monty Hall. You know, you just start, heaping magic items and all sorts of abilities on them, and then they basically just mow through everything. And like has already been said by some of the other participants here, what fun is there in that? You have to give them a challenge to be able to figure things out, but you also have to give them something to look forward to the next week or the next time that you're actually playing. We have one, and in fact, it's kind of an inside joke in our stream, our teaser trailer that Jay just got.
And Will.
But I'll let him explain it because it was actually his idea.
Yeah. So real quick. So going back a long time ago, this movie came out. Ever remember this cheesy movie in the '80s, Night of the Comet?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Remember when it came? It sprinkled all this stuff, and they all like disintegrated overnight or whatever. So instead of my Mordenkainen's disjunction, whenever the Monty Hall old school characters, because Walt is the big one, he always wants to play all these old characters. I'm like, Walt, I mean, you can't. I mean, you got this character around 25 strength. No, you can't. So instead, what I did was this. The magical comet appears in the sky, and it does the Night of the Comet thing, and then they lose. I just rip off whatever the comet took it. The comet takes this, comet takes that, comet takes your stats down, and that was it. And it's called getting cometized. So, and then they can play the character, yeah. So that gets rid of the Monty Hall characters real quick. And so that's the whole comet thing. It's kind of like a more Kansas Junction because, like I said, when we were kids, I'm 12, 13 years old. I have no idea what I'm doing. And how many Helms of Brilliance and how many Robe of Eyes did people give out back in those days? And those items are so crazy, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no defense against the Helm of Brilliance. There's not, and it just
you also learned your lesson with the arrow of direction. I mean, we had a player that was using it, and every time he turned around, I mean, the entire night was I throw my arrow direction in the air, and it'll just tell me where it is that we need to go. Well, what else do you do? You commonize it. You have to.
Exactly. He threw it up the last time, and it hit a rock. Oh, it hits a rock. Snap. And that was that. So.
Just need one fireball centered on the party.
Well, no, because didn't you see in the chat, Naz? All right, so this Thursday, Tim has a character, Fensick, who has a rod of lightning that absorbs lightning bolts. He carries around. And the first time he ever used it, I cast a fireball in the group, and he goes, "Oh, he absorbs the fireball." I'm like, "It's a lightning rod." He goes, "No, it absorbs fireballs too." I go, "It's a fucking lightning rod. It doesn't absorb fireballs, Tim." So that's he's not on right now. So this is the stuff I had to put up with back in the day. Who knows where he got that? He didn't get it from me, so. That was a good topic. Yeah, you understand, guys.
Well, you got to fish.
It's been an inside joke for a long time.
It's been, there's been a lot of but I brought that character back with his best buddy Luv on Thursday night because I want people to experience them now. So, I just did wandering through. They're wandering through to keep. So, next question. It's again from Rox. And I know how I address it. I'll go last on this. We'll start with Skagith. Skagith, what do you do if you have players, real life situations, sick, missing, not there? How do you handle that?
It depends on, I guess. I mean, if it's like this streaming, you have to have some sort of backup plan and say if one player out of 4 or 5 or whatever you have in the group is out, we will go regardlessly. We will go forward and we will find an in-game solution. The person is in the background somewhere. Don't really mind the person not being there. If it's in a more private situation when you're sitting down by the table and rolling, maybe you will have to reschedule or something if you really have that sort of environment where you almost need to sit close together and roll the dice and be in the same room and feel. That is almost a time when you value each and every one. It's almost like a meetup when you have the chance to actually meet you and you.
Do you play in a face-to-face game now too?
A little bit. Okay. I would say I play once or twice per month.
Good.
So it's not that much.
Awesome. What about you, Will? What do you think?
Basically, it really depends on where the junction in the story is. If it's a pivotal moment in the story, like the very next adventure, they're going to breach the inner stronghold of the major villain. It's like, well, okay, we're going to have to do something different here.
Yeah.
And that's where I would throw in the side quest, even if it doesn't seem like a side quest. For example, we'll take the, because I just pulled that out of nowhere. They're getting ready to infiltrate the inner sanctum, and they're going to try to attack it. So as they're there and they're ready, they are surrounded by, say, like, I don't know, some black mist or whatever, and for one moment they're mentally transported to another place. It's sort of like the dream sequence sort of thing. It's like a defensive mechanism.
Yeah.
And in this area, they have to do something, and it's like a defensive mechanism. I mean, that's something even like right at the last minute. It's like, well, I can't pull them out of where they're at and stick them someplace else. So let's try and do something else to work it. If it's not key, then they're kind of they're ghosting.
Right.
They're just there walking around, their character's there, it's just not really being played, and you just ghost them, And with streaming, it's a little bit harder because you don't have that actual personality there. But I think audiences understand that too, and audiences will understand what you're doing, and they don't want to be cheated out of something.
Right.
And if it's a major thing, and then you go in without the full cast, they're not going to be happy about that. So it really depends, I guess, just where the story's at.
Cool. How about you, Anna?
Well, for me, it's kind of, it depends a little bit about the group. One thing that we ran with one of the groups that I've played with for many years, we simply, each player dedicated said that if I'm not here, that player plays my character.
Okay, assignment. Okay.
Responsible for it. So that was one way we did it. And then we done
Sure,
the
common,
kind of
like-
the ghosting thing too, meaning that character stays behind. And that's usually the case, even if some other players is kind of designated as the caretaker of the character when the normal player is gone, then or absent. That means that player kind of say, I don't want to kill that my friend's character, so they kind of keep it in the back burner.
Right, but he still played, especially if it's a healer or something. You
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah.
Cool.
And also to reschedule, of course, if it's kind of, because usually one or two certain characters become more pivotal, or
Vital,
like
yeah.
the campaign kind of evolve around some characters, maybe more than others.
Yeah.
And I try to make sure that I kind of introduce enough things so that the same character is not pivotal all the time or in center. So that's the key thing, that there's with side quests and things coming in that every character can grab hold of, and player can grab hold of for his or her character. So, but that's a tricky thing. But I have never run anything online or something that others have been dependent on, or have an audience for, or anything like that. So it's only been just us playing, so to speak.
So Ian, what do you do? Because I noticed on like your certain nights you have a lot more guys there than others in different groups and stuff, and I'm assuming you have a lot of ins and outs. So how do you do it? How do you handle it?
I think I'm a little more mean about it. I've told people before that the game's still gonna run because I want to play. So
Absolutely.
But I actually, like last night, I had someone who wasn't there, and one of my players role play a bunch, and they're like, "Hey, what is his opinion on this?" And I was like, and I gave him like an answer that I felt that player would have respected. But I was starting to think, because I end up, if someone's missing, because my group, I allow them to drag NPCs along with them, and I know a lot of people like frown on that. But I'm like, hey, if they've convinced these NPCs to come with them, then
Not in the old school, man. It was called the henchman.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I end up with all these character sheets that I have to run, and it's kind of slogging down the flow of the battle. So Colville put out these rules, Matt Colville, for henchmen, and I was thinking of making a henchman version of each player. That way they can run it, and it'll have some of the abilities, and it's just not going to take like 5 minutes for the person to go, okay, hold on, I don't know what spells he has, and then pulls out like this spell list that's like 80 spells long.
That's a great idea, actually. That's a
Very
really
interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, Mark, you tell them what we do.
So from what we actually do, it's a couple things. So one, it actually depends on where we're at campaign-wise and what is going on. The good thing is Jay is usually very well prepared to begin with, and he's also, I will say it, there's no other way to say it, he's very anal retentive about making sure that everybody lets him know who is going to be there and when they're going to be there. The reasoning behind that is, though, is because so that he can be prepared for what it is we need to do. So if we're in the midst of doing something that is going to be very important, and we realize that there's going to be a key character or key people that are going to be out, he will actually run something different. So from our perspective, it's a lot easier because we actually do adventure in groups. We're not the type that has a specific set that we use, and that is the only part of the entire campaign. So we have up to...
We have 18 adventuring groups.
Yeah, I was going to say it's close to 20 different groups. So we can
Over
change,
39
and
years.
we have multiple things prepared just for that contingency.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing that we also do is we'll do the ghosting types of things. We've also started more of and I kind of ripped this off from Jay because I like the idea. of a group experience. So effectively what happens is that whenever we start up a new group, we start off, we normally play two characters at, each night. But we actually roll up 3. And so we're given the option in most cases to interject in whichever 2 we want to, or whichever one that we want to, depending on how many people are going to be there. That helps also kind of contribute balance to it, so that you don't have characters that are 6th level and 2nd level, just because for whatever reason they couldn't be there for it. So everybody kind of moves up evenly, except for my characters and Alan's characters. Jay always bones us on experience. So,
always.
That's how it is, but but that's essentially. And with my actual group on Mondays, I have people that flow in and out all the time, and use that same kind of idea behind it about they're not really losing anything. They're kind of ghosted. They're watching after the horses, or there's always people that they may need to escort out of the dungeon, or whatever the case may actually be. So they still are part of the storyline, and they still get experience as part of the entire group. But I actually take experience and out of however many nights and divide that equally amongst everybody. And depending on how many nights are there, that's how much experience that they get.
You're a little different from me. So we started a joint experience group back with the worst named ever adventure group, the Omega Patrol, right? Back when we did Hamlet, and we did the reboot on Hamlet. And if you notice, our groups are big. Like, we have 18 characters in this adventuring group, but we only use 9 at a time right now. And it evolved from our knowing that if one of our guys is not there, we can pull in an extra guy or 2 from the other players. It's available, these guys are off training or doing whatever, and it keeps the game running. And it's just what evolved that worked for us. I mean, we're all 50 years old with real jobs. They're like, Alan got stuck in Vermont on Thursday night, and Tom wasn't there because it was his birthday party. I was short 2 guys, but it ran smoothly Thursday because we had it figured out ahead of time. I mean, that's the way it works with it. And just every DM will figure out something different for their group, and that's the great thing about the game. I got a next round here. We'll start with Will on this one. I know. Ian brought something up on this. Give me a system rule, and the system you play you ignore completely, and why.
Well, the first thing that pops into my head is not necessarily a rule so much. By the way, I love your flanking rule, Anna. I'm totally using that. I refuse to allow the it's a new 5e, came out of whatever that one supplement was, the Shepherd Druid archetype. I hate summoners. I absolutely hate summoners, and I think a lot of DMs do. And this particular type of summoner, it's like boom, and then he's got an army, and it's like we were talking about balance earlier. It's like, I mean, the situations, it's like he's got readily at his disposal a ton of different types of creatures and things that he can deal with. I don't mind a shape changer, but when you can go, all right, well, I've got 50 towns guards here, and the way the shepherd is done up, he like can summon X amount, and he can it gets all these bonuses for what he summons and so forth. And it's like, okay, well, now he's got 50 wolves and he's throwing them at him. And it's like, well, there's that encounter. It's like, so let's role play your army of animals or whatever summoned monsters fighting the monsters while everybody else just sits back and sips on a Mai Tai or something like that. So that's really the only thing that I super know right off the top of my head. But I am also notorious for limiting or changing things in games, like spell-wise and stuff like that. Once if a system, something is found out that it's broken in a particular situation.
Cool.
And that basically turns into a conversation with whoever the player is. It's like, okay, well, I'm your DM, and this is my issue with it. You want to still use it. What's the happy medium? And then we work out a compromise is basically what it would be. So.
How about you, Skaggith?
Yeah, I was thinking if there were like the rule, the one that you write down in your black book and throw at people, but I don't really have that one. But one thing that I'm known for is that I hate truly hate high fantasy creatures and people want to play them. I adore like the MERP and the low fantasy settings, so I do enjoy people playing humans, and then it kind of derives down to like dwarves and gnomes or whatever, and getting less and less more interesting as you are putting more fantasy into it. Yeah, and I mean, elves are okay. I can see them as humanoids, and but as soon as they're talking about, I want to play this construct demon with a sword as an arm, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You can write that down as I don't care. Just pass on, go away. But that's one of the things that I probably take up fairly early when I'm doing like a D&D game. This is the things. I don't care about the system or the setting. I don't like this sort of game. If you do like it, this is probably not the game for you.
You got to tell the story though when you were watching Mark's thing 2 weeks ago, and Jeff's playing the monk, and you just typed in, "I hate monks." That was great. I despise monks.
Yeah, monks are bad too.
Yeah.
Monks are really bad.
It was great, man.
The thing about monks is, as soon as they are introduced in games, I see like these Shaolin monks jumping around like a Kung Fu Panda, and I can't see it. It
doesn't fit the setting. I mean,
I have
everything
two
else
monks
is
in my game.
yeah. It's like everything else is European fantasy based, and oh, by the way, here.
Yes.
Like, oh, okay.
I've had players actually adopting in monks that works, but then in a sense, it's not monks anymore. It's more like knights or something else that have the monk abilities or whatever. So it feels like they've changed it. So as soon as the monks are there, I'm just hoping that the players just scribble those by.
How about you, Ian?
I'm notorious for not allowing gnomes in my game. I'll allow like the like beast like monster races, but everyone's gonna bully them. All the humans are gonna look at them weird, and you're not gonna be allowed into an establishment in like a normal like town. Another thing is I'm really specific about how teleportation works, because I try to keep my setting like low fantasy,
right?
And I don't want like just any bloke at 5th level to be able to teleport wherever they want, because the people in charge are gonna get really upset by that. Yeah. All of a sudden you're surrounded by the town guard, like, where did you come from? I do have like a rules system that I made for my game, and it just gives the players, because I like a lot of role play in my games.
You do.
So the more I have like each player make up their backstory, and the more that they end up giving out to the players, and the more that they end up like working together, I'll give them a level of like bond, and the higher their bond is, the more abilities that they can use in battle. And these abilities they purchase. In 5th edition, you have the hit die system, where like each character, a barbarian of 5th level, has 5 hit dice of like d12, and he can use those to regain health. But that's like the only thing the hit dice are used for. So I was like, well, you can use your hit dice to buy these abilities. So if you want to use 4 hit dice, you can get a bonus to your armor class, but only if you're 5 feet away from your buddy over here, who now you are pretty good friends with. So I wrote that up. I think I actually put that on what's this site? The DM's Guild, but that's all that I've really introduced to the game. I saw
you posted something there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great.
I don't really tweak 5th edition too much. There's a lot I ignore in 5th edition, but I don't really tweak it.
Excellent, man. How about you, Anna? What do you do with Pathfinder? There's got to be something that you like that now.
Yeah, because I don't like my game is actually high fantasy, but it's hidden well. So because I realized, thanks to my mapping, how large the world actually is. Meaning, there is like thousands, hundreds of thousands of square miles to hide things. Meaning, undeads are not everywhere, dragons are not everywhere, etc. So it's kind of it's a lot. These things don't come up often. When they do, they come up for a reason and they have a place in the world, so to speak. But my main way to deal with people who want to play all sorts of weirdo things is that once my campaigns, the bunch of campaigns I've had in the past, I've actually, since I ran, I started in like first edition and basic D&D and moved on through the editions. And when we started playing third edition, I realized that the way to deal with it is to actually start them without having a class at all. So I start them at 0 level. And that way they only pick their race, that's it. They simply say, I want to play an elf or something. And it has to be appropriate for where we start the game. Meaning if they choose drow and we start the good, then the whole neighborhood, everyone will come hunt you down, so to speak. So if you're a tiefling, someone wanted to play a tiefling, and simply say, well, you have to realize now you're on the first of the hit list, and everyone's going to come after you. So all the horrors, meaning racism and stuff, is in the real world. That's nothing compared to what the horrors in the fantasy world. Everything is harsher and tougher that way. Meaning if you're an orc and you're in for real D, there's a price on your head, and you will not keep that head long, so to speak. So,
Amen to that.
Yeah. So then I want the players to really feel that. Meaning, if you want to play that and it's not appropriate, damn. Well, like if you're an elf and you play somewhere in some evil land, you're not going to last long. So players tend to pick that up fairly quickly and realize, okay, I'm sticking with the basic game. And if they start playing 0 level characters, meaning you actually, if you want to play a summoner, you have to find someone to teach that, or you have to learn that. And that's tricky, meaning most characters tend up to be some sort of mishmash fighter that learned a little bit that. They tend to be more powerful when they're first level than they normally would be on standard rules, and meaning they will have a lot of them. They have this one cantrip they can cast when they roll like 12 or higher. They're able to cast it and stuff like that. So they end up with some little extra trinket and some little extra skill or something that way. And the characters have been fun because they've been rooted somewhere. They have a background and stuff.
Yeah, they develop.
Yeah. So I used in-world mechanics to weed out the players that want to play off the chart things, and I also limit the class ability. And sometimes I'll say outright that no, I haven't even tested it, I'm not playing it. And usually I will only allow things that I've actually run as NPCs and stuff. And the other thing with high-level spellcasters, like teleportation and high-level spells, and now I'm going to divulge a secret that most players don't get to know in my campaigns, is that magic works the way that it's like lighting a beacon. When you cast a high-level spell, that is felt in the multiverse, so to speak. So higher-level characters, he scans his world for powerful powers being used, like spell-like powers, and someone casted. If someone casted a wish, damn, he will go for himself out to find out who the hell is casting powerful magic that I know about in my realm, in my area, and he will go after you. So high-level magic is kind of you tread carefully with that, so to speak, because that's like super weapons. And if you do, everyone is like it's like every big city. They have magic users that are the kind of the magic police that sit and watch in their crystal balls to see someone in our realm that is like doing these things and things like that. So great power comes great responsibility with it, so to speak. And you have to wield things wisely. And if you have a +5 sword and you start chopping up head, or like a warple, it will spread like wildfire, because that's not a common item, and every warrior within 200 miles when they find about they want it or they will flee, and so you have to be kind of the level. Responsibility comes with power in my campaigns. I try to, just like the real world. So you're nasty.
I'm right there with it. I tell you, most of the new crop of players that are coming in, they're coming in with a certain idea of how D&D is.
They're not ready for that.
Yeah.
And they're used to, and this is something that drives me crazy. And I tend to have problems with this when I'm teaching, D&D to new people who are just learning the game, and it's the high fantasy in a low fantasy world. So essentially, you've got all of this. The setting is a certain way, but then there's all these characters that can do all this crazy stuff, and it's like, well, don't you think that they would take measures against people who could do these certain things? There would be magic that would be devised that kept people from teleporting into rooms and stuff. And when you start implementing this sort of stuff, you mean, what, I can't do that? And I'm like, well, no, they know about this stuff, man. So it's like you can have it either way. It's like, if you want low, okay, we'll go that route. If you want high, okay. If you're gonna become an axe murderer with a Vorpal sword, guess what? Somebody's gonna take notice of that sort of stuff. Probably gonna come after you.
So here we get. Oh, go ahead, Anna. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, one of these things is like, I totally agree with you, Will. And one of the things that I've introduced that is kind of an artifact that powerful rulers, because if you had magic like that in the world, you wouldn't let anyone who cast spell close to the throne and so on. So really powerful kings and rulers and stuff, what they've done, they created the throne room is kind of an artifact. So that is like a zone where you step in there. You realize that now it's not an anti-magic zone. It's simply that you will fail your next saving throw, basically. You're kind of taking the power away from you. And meaning if you cast magic in here, you're screwed, basically. So to speak.
And I'm going to have to steal that.
Yeah. So
I'm going to have to steal that.
Yeah. So the characters know when they step in front of Ayu's throne, they are his prey, so to speak. You only do that, and you're screwed even before you try something, so to speak. If you try something, you are screwed. But you know about it. You can feel the power coming. So it's up to you if you step over it, so to speak. That is like a line or a carpet or something, and you can feel the power. And everyone who steps in front of you, they go there and they kneel and they accept the power. Otherwise, hell will come and strike you, so to speak. So real power come with real power, so to speak, and it's not and also my campaigns are not games to be won. It's an experience. You get to play a character in a world that needs to make sense, and you need to navigate it. And I also give players plenty of chance to alter it. One example is that I run, thanks to my maps and so on, I run a lot of outdoor games. I don't go from most campaigns, they go from encounter area to encounter area, indoors and from place to place. My characters, they simply roam across the landscape. And if they roll perception and say that I keep a lookout and I scout around, they see the enemy far off. So they can kind of wait out and conduct an ambush, or they can go around and stuff. And like an example was the characters were like 5th or 6th level, and they were going through a town in the evening, and they were looking around to see where is the inn, where the hot, cool things going on in the town. And they see this bad weather coming in. It was like some dark coming in. It was something nasty coming down the road. And they were players that hadn't played in my campaign that long, so they were like, oh, awesome, there's something we can kill. So we kind of ran down the street and waited by the roadside to ambush, and took a rope and put it across the road. What they didn't know, it was a death knight that was going on. and they simply held onto the rope for dear life, and realized this. And I rolled, and the nightmare he was, the horse thing that he was running failed his saving throw, so he kind of tripped. But the Death Knight made it, so he stood up, and the horse thing kind of fell over, and the nightmare. And the first character ran up like, I'm going to kill it. And the Death Knight just stared at him and realized, what the hell, you coming at it? And he just punched him once and decked him, and he became unconscious. And then the other one's like, and then the nightmare took out 2 of them. And then the other ones were like coming on, and so then they stopped and they regrouped, and then the wizard was like, now I'm going to get him. So he cast a fireball and really started it. And I waited around where the Death Knight was like, okay, I'm going to get onto my mount here and just continue, because his mission was to move fast to where he wanted to go, not to fight some riffraff that was trying to get across him. So
That's some street gang on the side of the road.
Exactly. But when the wizard cast a spell on him like that, he used his eldritch fire and just scorched a whole bunch of them, and it was a TPK except one character who was late bleeding in the one, and they were like, "What the hell did you do that for?" It's like, you picked a fight with someone that was obviously out of your league. And they could have sensed that from the beginning, and they could have lowered the rope, they could have run off, they could have quit running in. And meaning, don't take it for a game that everything is there for you to be killed.
Yeah.
And that's
First rule of thumb is if the person can have their own weather patterns.
Yes, exactly.
No.
Exactly. That's the perfect point. But also, it works from the other way, because that also means that my NPCs and monsters and stuff, they are creatures who want to live on. They're not there to be killed by the character. So they also flee and beg for mercy and stuff like that. So it works both ways.
So Mark, can you imagine joining Anna up with Tim's evil descriptive ideas and what a mega game that would be?
No.
I mean, seriously, you guys haven't heard this. I'm sorry. I have to tell the story while Tim's on. Okay, so I'm in 8th grade, right? He's in 8th grade. I'm in 9th grade. And I'm with Walt, and we're going to a game. And I've never met Tim in my life before. And we get in the car, and we're sitting in the back seat. And I've never met him in my life. What's the first thing Tim ever says to me, ever? He goes, looks over at me, he goes, "So do you think that because of the speed factor of a dagger, a mage could attack twice in one round with a dagger instead of once?" I never, right, Tim? I mean, I didn't even know who the heck you were. You asked me about speed factors of daggers back in eighth grade. So.
Yeah, it was an early discussion. So
yeah, very.
It was a
early.
test.
It was so much faster than everything else, and in fact, in real life, it is also very true.
He's an armor guy, so tell him you don't want to go around messing around with him with weapons. Let me tell you something. So, so Tim, this question is system rules you ignore playing with your daughters. And
Actually, before you guys get into it, I got to sign off. So
Will.
I want to say thank you to everybody.
Thanks a lot, man.
You will.
Enjoy your game tonight, man. Thank you so
will.
very much. Owen will probably hop on. Hopefully, he can figure out how to use Zoom by the end. So, we'll see you soon.
All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Very well.
He's got his game. There we go. Pop! Now we're all big. We're all nice and big now. So we're talking about rules you ignore in your system. Mark and Tim, what do you think?
Tim, go ahead.
Well, I think we ignore the
Speak back.
racial limitations in classes.
Yeah, we do. We do that completely now. Yep, absolutely.
And we ignore the weapon adjustments in our armor classes, all the things that
Slow the game down.
will slow it down without benefit. It doesn't. I mean, I've played some bogged down. I mean, you can go detailed, but we're not trying to build a fight simulator here. We're just trying to have a game with a little bit of abstract rules is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything to add, Mark?
Yeah, I would say the thing that, and it really pisses off my players, are cantrips. I absolutely despise the use of cantrips. And simply being because I don't feel that they have any place in the game at all. Any mage has that ability. It's just a natural ability that if you're a mage, you already have it. So it's just kind of ignored. But I've seen too many times where people have tried to leverage something simple to handle a complex type of a situation with just using the cantrip. It's like, look.
Tim's smirking his face at the present spell. Remember that?
That's that. You're the one that started it. So.
The reason was we were doing how do you pull your wand out in a timely fashion, and then since the game mechanics that Jay's using is you can switch out weapons and wands without a problem.
Free actions.
Then that's not a useful thing to have. It's not really what. But I remember my archmage using a lot of cantrips, going back to trying to maintain that low magic profile and not bust out high magics, and was using cantrips to change his hair color and things like that just to be low tech.
Yeah.
Disguise.
Yeah. But that's a good one, Mark. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I got.
I was going to say the other one, and I don't know if I'm stealing it from you.
No.
Psionics.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anybody that has ever played 1E, 2E, and so forth,
Oh yeah.
need to cut psionics out of the game
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
is so overbalancing and so much of a pain.
Not again with mind flayers. Mind flayers and
Yeah,
like
that's
have them
different.
for attack mode blasts, but not not player characters. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. We're going to go on.
39 years, we've done one psionic battle. One.
Yeah, it's not for the game. It's not for
Yeah.
us. So here's another question. I don't know, this one's a little more specific. And that's why I'm scrolling stuff over on the left-hand side, because we're very nostalgic. I mean, all the guys on the Greyhawk Online call me the nostalgic guy. You know what I'm saying, Anna? So, so Ian, your best published introductory module and your best series of modules you ever played or you like. What do you think? And if you've never, if it's not your thing, that's cool, man. If you never played.
My favorite published module ever is White Plume Mountain.
Okay, that's great, man.
Yeah. Introductory mod. I think the 5th edition. They had one for the Underdark. It's called Out of the Abyss, and it's for first level all the way up to 20th level. And by the end of the campaign, you're like dealing with like demon lords, like Gratz and like.
I was like,
the Demogorgon. I actually was running it, and someone in chat was I was running it online. Someone in chat was actually in the game, and they saw the Demogorgon, and everyone else in the party was like, "We need to leave." And his character was like, "Well, I don't know what the Demogorgon is, so I'm just gonna run at it." And he like began to run at it. He did not survive.
Yeah, well, you know,
he did not survive with a sound mind afterwards.
Yeah, it's like that thing in the Dragon magazine. You're attacking Demogorgon with a penknife, right? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Skagith, what do you think, man? Published introductory and series.
Yeah, there are several of them, but most of them are in the Swedish realm.
Oh, okay.
So there are some of them that I tried to see if I couldn't kind of translate over, because some are almost as good as Hamlet is for some people.
Yes.
Or kind of Orlean or stuff like that. So it would be kind of cool to just play them with people who never really witnessed them outside of the Swedish boundaries.
Cool.
Otherwise, I mean, I do like the old classics. They are cool in a way. I like that they were concentrating more on the story and the town and the small intrigues. And somewhere down the line, okay, here is the dungeon for you. And you're like, okay, what's the story connected to it? Yeah. So on the page here and so forth. Okay, so who's the bad guy? I don't know. There's a warlock named something here. Is he the bad guy? I don't know. And you're kind of scribbling through. I kind of like that you were kind of thrown into the modules like Orlean, or there was like in the booklet, kind of, there is something happening, people are disappearing in Orlean, and you were like, who, where? I can't read it somewhere. And you had to read the module several times, and a lot of the people I have been able to talk about those kind of games, they were like, yeah, we did notes for days for that one. We rewrote it and we changed it and we did everything so it made sense. But yeah, I kind of like that. The Moat House and the Elemental Evil is a classic.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Really broken, but really fun anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Brian Blomkast and I were talking about that the other night, and how you have to fill in a lot of the gaps on that. What do you think, Mark?
Oh, so published. That's a tough one.
Well, I have yours up. I have it scrolling, and it's Out of Dragon or Dragon magazine.
Yeah, so there's a few that are out there. I mean, that already got mentioned. I think.
There we go.
Honestly,
there it is. Oops.
Show Camp is, I think, a fantastic one. Really tough one to do, but is really well done. The G series Against the Giants are really, really cool. I mean, those are really fantastic. But my favorite, I actually start off a group with a trifecta, and all three of them are actually out of the Dragon magazine.
I got one up now.
Yep. The very first one that I like to run is out of Dragon 92, which is called the Sword of Justice. The next one I like running after that, I don't remember the precise dragon it's in, but it's called the Temple of Silence. And then after that, the one that Jay has up there is called Citadel by the Sea. Those are three really, really great stories that you can leverage however it is you need. In fact, the funny part is the first two are actually D&D. They're not even AD.
Yeah, they're basic. Yeah.
Yeah, they're basic, which is fantastic. I mean, the second one, you actually get introduced to a vampire in Chapel of Silence for first and second level characters. So check them out. The storylines behind them are absolutely fantastic.
I forgot one of my favorites that I haven't played and nor have I run, but I've seen people run is The Night Below, and I just sent a link to that for that one. That one's good.
Yeah, was that what edition was that? Was that second or third?
Second edition. No, first edition, second edition, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, you can get on. Say hello. My son Shane, say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Shane.
Love you. Okay. We're gonna have a big discussion.
I know. I just had to tell my dad something.
What do you want to tell me? Good. So, what do you think, Tim? What's your favorite? Good. Great.
When I was just now cataloging in my head, the Chapel of Silence stood out as one of the good ones I remember early on with some early characters. I did like. This was a basic D&D adventure too. I think it was called the Veiled Society it's a
B4, I think, isn't it B4?
Yeah, it has intrigue and in a city. So I think I had it in the city state when I ran it, but I thought that was a good intro. A lot of low-level intrigue for introducing people to something a little bit more complicated than just kick them indoors and kill them what's in the room. But overall, published. Man.
It's all right, man. I mean, we played so many ones back in the day. I mean, I got Dark Tower up here, and I thought that was your favorite of all time, right? Dark Tower is like, and that's Judges Guild. So anyone
as far as like a city environment, or a environment, I think the city state is.
Well, I said when you were off that campaign outside of Greyhawk is my favorite of all time that you ran for the city state of the World Emperor. The one you did it was great. I mean, that's my favorite by far. Just close this door, sorry. Go ahead, Anna.
Well, I'm not much of a module person. There's only one module that I've actually run basically as intended, and that's Hoplite, because it's such a sandboxy thing, so it kind of fits my play style. But so I must, and also I've also before I ran it, I actually played it with my first DM, and I love that game. That module was fantastic. It was kind of set the tone for how I played. And I also love the mode house part, but when I played it, we got to Temple of Elemental Evil. It's still there, and it's still I use, but I changed a lot of how it worked mechanically and stuff inside. So I'd still call it the Temple of Elemental Evil, but it kind of worked differently that way. It's more like a straight I use power-based thing, so to speak. But the Hoplite and the mode house, the T1 to 2. That's my favorite, simply because both played through it and it's very sandboxy, and I love that kind of little village, and then you have Nob, that kind of deserted thing next to it where a lot of villains kind of skulking around, and I just love the tone of it, so yeah.
Okay, I found them. Tim, these are great. The Twofold Talisman. Remember those? Yes, mess with the best. I like the rest jackets. Okay, I love those. I may run them again soon. But yeah, they were good for me. I think it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I love Saltmarsh series. I loved it. They were great. I love Hamlet. I love Bonehill. I love, and then the Assassin's Knot after that. I mean, there's a lot of them that. But we've gotten away from published adventures with what we're doing now. We're like 90%, 95% homebrew, but it brings back some such great memories. And like I said, when you ran Dark Tower for me, Tim, that was just one of the best experiences ever.
So I have to add then,
Yeah.
it's not published, but
Okay.
it's the greatest adventure of all time, in my opinion. Amazons of the Crimson Moon.
Yes, that's one of mine. Thank you very
Let
much.
me tell the story behind it. So Jay,
All right.
in a dark period, I guess, decided that he wanted to resurrect all of the ex-girlfriends that all of us had. So there were all sorts of different types of stories and it just behind the scenes stuff that was going on that was just absolutely hysterical.
Did you turn them into hags and
No, they're all
No,
flowers
we
and
kill
all?
most of them off, although they have just had a resurgence. They're in our area in the Woolly Bay. They've been seen. Their ships have been around with pink sails. So,
Yeah, they're the corruptors of men, and so I sacrificed one of my NPCs, Emerson Winchester III. He was a fallen paladin, and he got seduced by him, and we all know the story about Emerson, and he ended up sacrificing himself in the end for Mark's character David a couple years later. But it's just thanks, Mark. I appreciate that because that was a man. You're right. That was a dark time.
Yeah.
So, hey, do we got any other questions from out in the audience, guys? We got about 20 minutes left, so let's see what we got here. So, any of you want to have questions? Any of us six want to have questions for everyone else? We can do that too. Like, Ian, you got a question? Skaggy, you got a question for anyone? I mean, or Anna? I'm really appreciative of everyone jumping in here and participating. So, it's so far been a real fun time.
It looks like Sprocketeer had
Yes.
one.
yeah.
Sprocket did. Okay, Sprockets. Let me see. Oh, okay. Let me see it, Sprocket. I missed it, Sprocket. I apologize. Ravenloft. Does anyone see it?
I just asked him to please ask it again. So,
Yeah. Oh, here it comes.
Here it comes.
there it is.
Good. Okay, great question. Let's start with. We'll start with Tim. Tim, what's your ideal number of players? Don't say one.
Say that again.
Ideal number of players in a group is in DM as a player.
The ideal?
The ideal number of players, people playing in your group. Yeah. I stumped them.
5 or 6, but it'll vary on the group and the maturity and yeah.
How about you, Ian?
5 has become my absolute maximum at this
Really?
point. I was running a group for 6, and I was my dungeon master. Yeah, bless his heart, had 8 of us.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, no more than 5 for me now. Yeah.
What about you, Anna?
I would say 4 players is probably my sweet spot. 4 players plus a DM, because 4 players, it's enough so you get enough creativity around the table and input and ideas and stuff, because that's 3 players is usually not enough to kind of, and also to mechanically fill out the party, so there's enough swords and magic and hit points and stuff when the shit hit the fan. So 4 characters and 4 players is usually good. If you have low level, you can usually put in 5 players, and also if there's a couple of really experienced players, you can add an extra one, because experienced players are used to not being in the center of attention all the time. They can wait 5 minutes in between, and in low level play, rounds go quickly in combat and stuff. So
Excellent. Skagith, what do you think? Uh-oh.
the things that we've done
Well,
for a few of my campaigns, we actually had 2 DMs. So you have a primary DM who runs the story and all that, and then you have an assistant DM
Chunk.
that runs the NPCs and monsters, who plays them, so to speak.
Actually, I'm sorry, I actually dropped packets here on the broadcast. That was weird.
Uh-oh.
I've never had that happen from my room up here. Skagith, what do you think? I'll keep an eye on it.
No, I think that depending on sitting down together as a in real life game, I would probably jump the number up a little bit. But if you're running it online, I think my sweet spot is like 3 players. That makes it so that you need a certain tempo. Often you have like 3 hours to play and you need to kind of continue on, not so much in the discussion, but as soon as there is a decision that needs to be done, or fighting. Fighting could take out so long if it's online, but yeah, and if it's a game that you play together in real life, I should probably say like 5 would be a sweet spot, or 4 to 5. But I would also add in that a huge difference, I'm not sure about the little bit older of the GMs and players, the huge thing that I and Sprocket have talked about is the ownership of books and materials. Back in the old days, at least for me, everyone had the book. Everyone had like the startup book, the core books, some companion books. Everyone knew the rules heartedly. Nowadays, it's like, yeah, I haven't really read the PDFs. I don't have the books. I don't really know my class fully. I'm like, you need to know exactly what you do. When it's your time, we don't really have time for waiting around. Oh, should I play this spell or not? We don't care. Either you decide now within the couple of seconds, or it's someone else's turn. You missed your turn.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have that tempo going.
DM's crushing fist. Absolutely, that's a great point, Sky. I mean, I just with my group and the seasoned players, it still happens occasionally. I'm like, decide, it's insane. Mark, what do you think?
So my sweet spot, honestly, is about 5 to 6 players. I like having a lot of that interaction, and a lot of it. And Tim made a good point. It really does depend upon the maturity of the group. If you have a lot of mature players versus newer players, then I like to shim it down a little bit, probably closer to 3 or 4, like 2 experienced and 2 inexperienced. Now, Jay and I use a method, and Tim does too. It's a little bit different than most, and that is that we are actually playing characters as well as DMing at the same time. So we interject that in, and a lot of times I use it for kind of like that little conscience, especially with the newer group, little conscience on their shoulder that is saying, you may not want to be firing into combat, or it wouldn't be a good idea to throw a fireball in the midst of the group as they're charging. Those kinds of things.
Yeah, backlist area not clear.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's 5. Obviously, that's what I have now. But I can take up more. And for example, when we do. If it happens the way I think it's going to happen, and we do this mega stream on March 23rd, we have our whole group. Tim's coming. Tim's dad's coming. Anna's playing someone. I'm going to have 8 people in on that, but it's a charity stream, so I'll make do. You know what I mean? With 8, it'll be fine. But 5 is the sweet spot. But everyone's playing 2 in our group, so counting the NPCs, that's a group of 12 sometimes. That's right on the edge for me. Just because of our miniature style, though, I think it works a little bit more than a theater of mind. That would be impossible. But with a tactical style, I think it works a little bit better. And so, Ian, did you when you're doing tactical, do you think you can do a little bit more or less than theater of mind? What do you think?
I can't do theater of mind. I need the mat.
That's why I like you so much. That's what I like to hear, man. Yeah, we gotta have the we gotta have the figures. That's our style.
Sometimes they'll just like put stuff out on the map, and they're like, "Are you making a battle map?" I'm like, "No, I just like putting it out there."
Exactly. We love that. Even when we're talking in an inn, we want to have the figures out. That's cool. It's a great point. So let me see. And I don't want to do this on a negative. So we're gonna do this one quick, maybe. What do you do with a problem player? Seriously, what do you do? I mean, especially if they're a friend of yours or something. Skagith, what do you do?
I am kind of known for not being the most pleasant guy when coming around to be like social things. So if it's someone that doesn't really work, well, it's not a game for me. So
okay.
Either I'm out or that person is out.
Okay, so you're blunt to the point. I kind of like that. I mean, wow. I don't know.
I think that it kind of comes down to respect and a lot of things. I mean, if we are playing a game, everyone has taken a big chunk of their time to be there, and so have I. So if I'm putting all that time and effort and energy, etc., creating characters, I don't want to be deluded by this person doing whatever it is that is a problem.
Thank you, Owen. All right, so everyone, welcome Owen.
Where's audio?
Vercetti. I'm gonna say you're the second DM for Vercetti. Why don't you introduce yourself real quick, man? Since we got like 12 minutes left here, so
I know. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead, you're on, man. That's great. Introduce yourself real quick and how long you've been DMing and stuff, and rock and roll from there.
Okay. Hi, I'm Owen. I've been DMing for, I don't know, Ian, like 6 months. Like not a long time at all, actually.
Almost a year, maybe, like less than a year.
Yeah. There's been some pauses and breaks in between, but what else do I have to introduce myself?
What's your campaign? What's your campaign you're running on Vercetti D&D?
Oh, I run a game called Pantheris. I did create the world myself. It's definitely still like heavily in the works. But we've run quite a few sessions with some breaks in between.
It's a high fantasy world, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is high fantasy.
That's awesome. So, is it 5e?
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent, excellent. So, answer this question. If you had a problem player, what would you do?
Oh, I'm his problem player.
Yeah.
For 6 months. So, answer
I don't know,
question.
when your
Let's say
player
you're
is
6 month
constantly
old DM, I want to see what
wanting
you
to
do.
know what type of stone everything is.
So,
I mean, it really depends on like what the problem is that they're like, what they're doing. Definitely don't ever put them on blast. Don't ever call them out in like a group chat, like where everyone can see it. Like, don't act aggressive about it. Like, it just doesn't work. I would honestly just inbox them and try. If you can talk to them in person, that would be your best bet. I know that's not always possible when we play online. We live like thousands of miles away, but talking on the phone or in person and just try to explain what issues you're having and maybe just give a lot of like background on how it could be like if they're doing something that's kind of meta, kind of go over how it's kind of world breaking.
Yeah.
That doesn't work and it can break the illusion of the game. So I don't know, that's what I would do now in the future.
Good. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'll try and get you some more good questions here. Mark, what do you think?
Well, a lot of it is we have a much different style. I mean, Jay and I obviously are real close in it, but most of it is that the people that I actually play with, we're all friends, and so that's a big help to begin with. So there's a personal relationship there, and at the end of the day, it's a game. You don't try to do anything that obviously is going to hurt your relationship with whoever the player may be. But there are also times where you as the DM, it's you are the one that's running it. So you are the one that has control over it. And not that you have to, put them under your thumb or anything like that. It's nothing like that. But it's literally about making sure that you have an idea as to what it is that you're going to present them with, so that you're not really throwing any curveballs. I know Will, one of the things he actually does, we were talking about this over the weekend, is that he interviews his players. And I think that's necessary when you're doing more of a streaming type, what we like to call theater of the mind type, versus figure type.
Yeah.
Playing at an actual table is a little bit easier. I think to some degree, you have a little bit more control over it. It's also real easy when you're doing theater of the mind to somebody gets out of line, well, whoop, and off they go. So cut them out pretty easily. Versus when they're physically there with you. I think everybody and Skag said it too. It's about respect. At the end of the day, don't do anything that's going to be disrespecting. We're all there to have fun. We're all there to enjoy each other's company. I mean, at the end of the day, our whole thing is about the stories. This is stories that we get to tell more than anything else.
Yeah.
Which is what brought us to doing this, every Sunday. as well.
I would like to say a short thing, kind of adding in. A good thing that I had to use when I started streaming was that I had two sets of things that I said. One thing would be, this is what I'm expecting of you as a player. I expect you to be on time, I expect you to do this and that, and respect each other, and the whole kind of block of things that I wanted and I expected of a player. But then I swapped it around and I said also, this is what you can expect from me as a GM. You can expect to be on time, to do this and that. If anything, just call me up, write me up or whatever, and I will always answer and try to, as best I can, to serve whatever problem it is. But I think it's pretty good to actually have a kind of direct startup, like your interview, kind of like saying that this is what I'm expecting, but you can also expect this from me.
Excellent. Okay, Ian, what about you?
Last week I actually had to, for the first time, kick a player out of one of my games. Yeah.
Online?
Not online, before the stream.
I said I missed that.
Yeah. No. I'm sure our viewer count would have gone up if it was online. No. I won't go in too much into it, but someone had wanted to bring someone into the game that had been in the game before, and they wanted to play the same character. And I was like, okay, well, the party isn't in a place where like that's doable. Like from my point of view, where they are is very exotic and far away. So you're not gonna be able to play that character. You can certainly play something else. They threw a hissy fit, probably because I'm dealing with much younger people than you guys are. And then that player got really defensive about it, and I tried to calm down the situation. And it got a little disrespectful, so I just told him he's out. So
good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Sometimes
How
it
about you,
happens.
Anna?
That's real tough.
Absolutely. Anna, what would you do?
First of all, one of the worst things for me is when players have conflicts between each other. So I'll try to kind of direct their anger towards me, so players can have conflicts with me and not with each other. And then I try to again sneak it in game. So if someone is trying to be difficult, whatever, I throw the world at them so they hate me so much they don't want to be in the game. That's one of the ways that I can kind of get them out of there. But
that's sneaky.
Yeah. I try to deal with as much problem as possible in game. So I try to more or less when they talk, I kind of assume the mood and the mannerisms around the table. If they don't explicitly say this is out of game and this is out of character and I want to ask you rules question, everything else is in game, so to speak. So if they go on and become angry and yelling and screaming at me or someone else, then they act their character is acting that, and
you haze them right on that.
Kind of goes around it. And so I try to teach players that whatever you do has consequences, meaning teach them power and responsibility, so to speak, and they can use it. And I also want the players to be angry at me at times. So when they actually kill that monster or whatever, they can feel the, damn, we nailed it, so to speak. So that's the thing. So I want some players to at least get real angry at me at times in the game. So really to kind of get it into it, because conflict is a huge part of the drama, so to speak. And I don't want to shy away from it. And I want the players to really like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get real emotional about it. As long as it's directed towards me, I'm fine with it. I've been in the military long enough, so I'm not that easily spooked. But when players start being angry and difficult towards each other, that's the problem that I want to kind of talk to them and get it out of it.
Oh, then
I know I ruined dwarves for Owen forever.
You can't exchange ideas with Tim. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
That would just go too far.
And so, and to finish this one up, Tim, what do you think?
The idea of the players being respectful is a good one. Luckily I've had friends and associates I gamed with, and so I've not had to. Maybe some people might be scared to, so then they're behaving better when I'm there. So
no.
But I'm thinking back to college when I ran the campaigns when I was off of college. I've had some instances where people where it was getting a little out of hand because, I was scaring the group as far as the players. They were like, and I just said, look, it's a game. The whole goal is to have fun. You got to have some drama. You got to trust me. Because they were worried that they thought everybody was about to get wiped out and thought it was unfair, but it wasn't happening. But I had to like talk them off the ledge metaphorically. It's like, whoa, this is all for fun. We're supposed to have fun.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. Yeah, relax.
So guys, this is all going so well.
I have, as a player, I was in a group where there's a guy, and I just kind of looked at him. I went to play with the group, I think 2 or 3 times. Then I just was like, never went back because I was like, this is supposed to be fun, and he makes it not.
Yeah. Well,
so that was it.
Yeah.
So you all okay to go?
You've asked someone to leave.
You all okay to go an extra half hour? I mean, we're all having, and Ellen just got on here. If anyone has to leave, it's okay. Let's just go one extra half hour, and then we'll call it a night. Sound good?
So Jay, you got to list yours though.
Yeah. After Tim's called you out.
Yeah.
Okay. So
go as soon as I hear you tell.
I've had problem players. We all know who they've been. Okay. I used to create the ultimate. A lot of my old NPCs are completely overpowered to deal with them. Particularly Andre Winchester, right? Whose keeps you in now, right? The evil, semi-evil antithesis NPC, like Leo McMichael, right? Like Lisden, who everyone's seen. I've used a lot of characters that way. But when we've gotten to the point where the problem player was just really not, it was making a lot of fun for other people, I actually fell short on a couple of occasions. And we know those, Mark, where I let it go on too long. And that was my bad. And I grew up from that. And, we know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I should have nipped it years ago, and and that person hasn't been playing. And Bill and Mastercraft Online knows what I'm talking about. So does Tom. So does everyone who played in the game. And I fell short. Hey, I'll admit it. I should have cut that person out earlier, and I didn't do it. But it's a lesson learned, And now we have a good group of people, and like I said, we're all old men and getting all gray and playing until we drop dead, it looks like, right, at this point. So, enjoying the game that we love so much. So, Sprocket asked another question. Rapid fire. How about this? Just overall, is D&D your favorite RPG, or do you have a different one? So, we'll start with Owen. Is D&D your favorite, or do you have something else?
Currently, D&D is my favorite, but I'm the only ones I've ever done was like Doctor Who and like a Star Wars one, so...
Okay.
D&D has been definitely my favorite.
Tim, tell us about, besides D&D, the one we used to play all the times ago with all the weaponry.
Aftermath.
Yeah,
if I'm going post-apocalyptic, I want to feel the recoil, so it has to be Aftermath.
Yeah, Aftermath was... He did a Road Warrior event that I still remember to this day. And now, on the gas truck and all back, and that was a blast. That was a blast in that system. Skagith, what do you like besides D&D, or is that your favorite?
No, I would say, and if anyone likes Sprocket or Reddix, they know that I love like Rollmaster. I started my RPGs up with MERP, which is like the Middle-earth role-playing game. And that is low key. I mean, that's a lot like Anna were talking about. Like if you were throwing some sort of magic, every high-powered magician would know about it and would try to hunt you down for your skills or your knowledge or whatever. So anyone who were a mage or magician would be like, oh, I'm gonna make a small fire to warm my pot of water. That was kind of the power of spells. So for me, I loved Rollmaster and MERP. I mean, there were lots of tables and crit tables, open-ended D100 systems are great.
Ian, what do you think?
I really, really want to play Shadowrun, but I've never found anyone that has read through the whole book. And I'm not reading through the whole book.
Oh my gosh, we had a Shadowrun time. And I'll tell you this: when you had to roll 12 six-sided dice to take a dump, it was a little too much.
It's intense.
Yeah. So Tim was really into it, but I say between Shadowrun and Aftermath all the way. You know, they're different kind of games, but you know, and Gamma World was another one too, which was cool. Mark, what do you think?
Frankly, I don't really partake in any other types of role-playing games other than D&D. Frankly, okay. I play every once in a while when we do BattleTech. You know, I have a character that's in there just for fun more than anything else. But honestly, I'm more into just board games. You know, a lot of the D&D board games that came out, we've been playing recently. So a lot of those things. I'm a Catan player as well.
Yep.
And a couple buddies of mine at work have been trying to get me into playing Magic. You know, I've always been at the periphery of it just because of, you know, obviously being a D&D player. But yeah, I like having other types of things that kind of mentally challenge me from a strategy point of view. So hence the whole concept of board games.
Anna.
For me, back in the day, I used to play a lot of different things. Like Traveler was the one that I played a lot, and we played some Call of Cthulhu. We played Junta, whatever, and even played the what was the one day you were supposed to love the computer and the computer was your friend and
Paranoia.
Yeah, Paranoia, yes.
Yeah.
but they never really caught on. But a few years ago, I played only 5 times. I played Fate, and I kind of loved it. And because it is a completely story-driven game, no rules mechanics to speak of, and you learn everything there is about it in 10 minutes, and you're good to go. And you never, it's hard to die, and you don't have a lot of mechanics at all. It's completely opposite from D&D and Traveler and the games that we're used to. And I kind of loved it. I was even thinking, because we played like a modern game in like TV action series and stuff in Fate, but I loved how cool and how quickly it was. We went through half a campaign in a day, so to speak. Things just flew by in no time. And I was thinking, how can you play Fate in fantasy and so on? So I was really intrigued. I was surprised. It was one of the conventions, local conventions. We started playing it, and it was like, oh, come on, you have to try Fate. And I kind of loved it and instantly. But so that's my only competition today with D&D, Pathfinder, kind of classic fantasy, because I simply regard Pathfinder as a fork or a version, an edition of D&D because it's so close. But that's my only competitor right now that I see. But yeah.
So for me, of course, it's BattleTech. We have 1,000 figures, and it fits perfectly into our table. And we have a cool setting for that, and we love playing that. But going back, Aftermath was my favorite back in the day, besides D&D. And now I'm going to plug now Miniature Building Authority's coming out with a ton of new figures that fit Aftermath, a lot of damaged cars and a lot of junk towns and stuff like that. That you know, I don't know if down the road I would even go back to it, because we're so intertwined in what we're doing here online with D&D. I mean, we threw a BattleTech in over the holidays and Christmas, and it was like we got a whole new audience. So that was just because there's that old school people out there who like BattleTech too. But for me, it's those three. Those were the three. Those are great questions, Sprocket. I really appreciate that.
Jay, I'm gonna have to roll.
Tim,
thanks for having me on.
See ya. Have a good one.
All right, thanks, Tim.
I'm gonna tell them about the zombies with the feet. I'm gonna tell them that story when you leave. So go for it.
Which story?
The zombies with the come on. The zombies whipping the guy's feet off.
Oh yeah, that's what they're good for.
Yeah. So I'll tell them. Have a good one, dude. See you, man. We should pop up to 6. There we go. Oh, he's still on. Okay, so great questions. I'm gonna say this while we're rolling it down. We got a lot of new people watching for all different channels. I have all the 4 channels that have joined me tonight. Anna B. Meyer, Skagith, Wicked Studios LLC, and Forsetti D&D. They're all on my followers list. There's only 15 of them. Please go on there, go to their site and give them a follow, okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You know, let's do this. Make it a community effort here. You know, if anyone's new to us, we'd always appreciate it too, but let's pump up the numbers for everyone. down the road, if we ever get someone to be a partner, we want to make a team unit up. We'll see what happens down the road. But just want to mention that. Thanks a lot, everyone. It's been a blast. I really appreciate the support from everyone tonight. So, do we have another question out from the audience? Anyone else here have a question? Mark, come on, think something up. I got one or two other ones, but.
So I guess one question I would like to ask is, whatever got you involved in D&D to begin with? I mean, I know about me. You know, it was peer pressure more than anything else, just because that was the group that I hung out with. But what drew you to playing to begin with?
That's a great question, man. Let's go Van on that one first. What do you think?
Yeah, it was simply friends who some guy had been in America, I don't know who, and studied here for a year and had some Xerox copy of the white box or the brown box of one of the early editions of D&D. And then one of my friends, he was keen on it, and he simply say, I'm going to run something about knights and dragons and whatever works. I even hadn't read The Hobbit or anything. I didn't know what an elf was or Hobbit or anything. And they just needed a player more, so he just dragged me in there. And I sat down and played, and the first time I didn't get it, and because the guy that actually ran the game, he was terrible. And then my friend,
we've all been there.
Yeah, he ran the second session like a week afterwards, or if there was the next day. I don't know. This is so long ago. I don't know. I was 15 years old, and then the second session, it actually worked because then he was a good DM, so he ran it mechanically, and I got my character died, but I saw the potential of it. I saw this is kind of awesome. You can simulate a world, so to speak. You can live in a world. And then I ran off and read The Hobbit, stuff like that. So that got me into fantasy, and I started playing. So it was thanks to the second. I was kind of coerced into it, and second time, then I got a good DM who actually could present what the potential of the game. And that was what got me. And I didn't realize that women's not supposed to do it or anything, because no one played where I lived out. No one, so to speak. That came from nowhere, so I had no clue about it.
Well, I can honestly say that having a good DM, being blessed with one, I have, and this isn't kissing Jay's ass, it's the God honest truth. Having one for the past 38, 39 years has been a real blessing, because without a lot of stuff that he's been able to do, it inspires a lot of us to do better at what we actually do.
Mark, that's really probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. No, I'm being sincere, man. I'm being truly sincere on that, man. I really appreciate, and I know we've taken it to a new level with the streaming, so thank you so very much for that compliment. What do you think, Skagath? How'd you start?
I remember starting up as really young. Like, I didn't even know what RPG was. I think that a lot of people at that time didn't really know. I was like starting school, like 7, 8 or something like that. And the person in the class had an older brother who played, and he wanted to level his characters as like NPCs, but he wouldn't want to do it by himself, though that would be cheating. So he took his little brother and said, like, gather some friends, and we're gonna do like an own game together. And that kind of made it happen. I was the worst player. I didn't know what to do, and as soon as they were, what do you want to do? I don't know. Can I roll for something? Can I do this or that?
Excellent.
But I learned the fantasy setting that I started to really enjoy later on.
Cool. Owen.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I've always really been like just kind of growing up, like in high school and everything. I loved going to Ren fairs. I loved RP and cosplay and like all that stuff. Loved Lord of the Rings and Dragon Age and that kind of stuff. I had played a few games, like D&D-esque, that my friend would run, but they were his own. It was some like steampunk fantasy mixed thing in like 4E or something. I don't even remember. And I was kind of into it. I was not really sure. And then I did like this Doctor Who game a couple years later, and I was like, okay, this is pretty fun, but I don't know. And then Ian asked me like, hey, do you want to play with us? And I was like, okay.
Sure.
Like, and I played, and it was like I was hit with a wave. Like I was just immersed, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh my god! Like I didn't know it could be this interesting, this much fun, because I love the RP and I love seeing how the world had been created, and I just hadn't gotten that full experience before. You know?
I remember that game because I had the other two players were having like a emotional breakdown over having to kill this person who was a werewolf, and they were like, I don't want to do it, he's innocent, and Owen was sitting over there in the corner like still making his character sheet like out of the corner, just a little freaked out since they were talking character.
But see, that's the great thing now, and I said this with Tim when he got in the car with me. You'll remember that the rest of your life, that moment, right? You're gonna remember that. You're gonna talk about it like 30 years from now, hopefully. You know what I mean? And that's what's so cool about the game. So, and that's why I love it so much. So, what about you, Ian? How about you?
About almost a decade ago, when I was at school with my friend in Germany, he literally just walked up to me and was like, "Hey, I need a wizard in this game that we're playing. I need to round off the party. I need a wizard." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And he's like, "You're gonna be the wizard." And I was like, "All right."
How old were you? Like 15?
Dragged me into his dad's Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Greyhawk game. Actually, Saltmarsh was the first module
Cool.
I played, and before I knew it, I had a +1 to armor class cod piece and this
Oh my gosh.
character sheet.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Oh,
man.
yeah, you got to incorporate that now. A +1 cod piece.
Oh,
Yeah, I want
my
that.
Jeez.
Go
Wow.
with the 12th mummified member.
Yes. We can talk about that on our stories, our story show in a couple weeks. So for me,
Yep.
I think it was 7th grade, and my friend who had the character William the Conqueror, if you remember that character, Mark. Bill Runzer came up in middle school, and he had the box set. I'm like, what the hell's this? I didn't say that in 7th grade, but you know what I'm saying. What is this? I looked inside, and it was cool and all. I was like, wow, this is kind of different. It's kind of open-ended as a game. It's not a board game, you know? I didn't know anything about it, and then I started reading the rules on it, and when I immediately got a box set, and I was like, this is really intriguing, you know? And then the Advanced Dungeons Dragons book came out shortly after that, Player's Handbook. I was hooked. And that's the story. You know, it just started at some point, and you just have a, hey, Nightheart Gaming. Yeah, so Nightheart Gaming they use a lot of miniatures too. So I'm trying to draw them into the family here. I just found them online. They got like 70 followers. So I reached out to them. So thanks a lot, man. Thanks for hopping on and catching into the show. So anyone else have a question out of the group or online? If not, I'll do some announcements and then we'll call it an evening. But man, this was a great couple hours. You know, this has been fantastic. I knew we'd have such a fun time, and I knew we'd have so many more people interested than we did when we did on our first one. It has to be 6 months ago, and things are just rolling along, and we're getting some more friends back into the game. Like Brian Sublime was talking. Anna knows him real well. He's getting back into D&D, doing Greyhawk and using Anna's maps and all. So we're getting the family's building up again more and more, and I just want to say I consider everyone that's on here and the people who've had to log off. You guys are my friends now, and that's just you make friends with people, and it just you talk stories, and it's like drinking a couple brews with your buddies. You know, it's a great thing, and I just love it, and I just love the whole camaraderie of the game, and that's part of why it's so much fun. I think so. Anyone else with a final question online or on here? You guys have anything else?
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, Owen.
Ian's gonna laugh at me for this one.
It's okay. Go for it.
When do you find it appropriate, if you find it appropriate, to railroad?
To kill us, the DM's crushing fist someone, or to what do you mean by railroad? To
like literally like railroading your players into.
You mean leading them by the nose?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Like directing them, like linearly directing them into an encounter or something like that?
Either that or like making it difficult to do other things.
Okay, so the open-ended game where you need to direct them as to make it kind of this is the end game, this is the plot. Okay, Mark, I know you're good at this, so go for it.
Oh, so honestly, the big thing is that you gotta, once again, know your players to start with, know what it is that they're capable of. If you're starting a newer group, it's a little bit easier than obviously if you're dealing with a bunch of advanced people. Now, I have a story behind this, and we joke about this. It's become one of our inside jokes. I'll try to keep it as short as I can, but the basic gist of it is there was a nemesis that Jay had introduced into the campaign. His name was Macrash the Elf Mauler. And Tim—
That is a badass name.
Yeah, he was terrible. He was a fighter assassin. And Tim has a character named Skeeve that absolutely despised him. And Skeeve found a way to be able to imprison him through an imprisonment spell in first edition. And so what Jay just built this story up a little bit further and further, and I introduced some new players into the actual campaign. And so Jay, and I don't remember what the adventure was specifically called, but I always call it "Don't Read the Book."
It was There Are Many Unpleasant Ways to Die.
Oh, okay. And so the basis of the adventure was, hey, you guys have to go and take this, go get this book. Don't read it. Do not read the book under the specific instructions. Don't read it. And just bring it. That's all you had to do. Well, as typical as it happens, when you say don't do something, what's the first thing somebody
do? Of course. Yeah.
Of course. So Jay basically painted us into a corner. Now, and I had the pleasure, my character was the first time Swain had actually taken over as a leader of the group. But he was knocked out. I don't remember what actually happened, but I think he got knocked out by a bounty hunter or something to that degree. So I couldn't say anything. But what had happened was a couple of the characters had also been imprisoned, and the other players thought that they were being really smart. They got on the other side where this book was, the other side of the room, and they took it and they threw it
across here, like keep away,
whatever. And of course, Jay said, "All right, so what do you do?" Well, I read it. Well, what they didn't know was that it also freed Macrash. And I remember the shit-eating grin, that's the only way I can describe it, on Jay's face. He just kept looking at me. And I'm like, oh my God, they did not do what I think they just did.
It freed their characters too, so it was fitting, But Tim went nuts.
I just felt like every part of my face had just drained from blood. I just felt like I was going to be sick. Yeah. And the worst part of it was that he did it when Tim was away at college, knowing full well that when he came back for winter break, that we were going to have to tell him, and Tim was going to blame me because my character was actually leading.
Yeah. So this is
anyway,
30 years ago.
That's a long-winded way of basically saying, depending on how you weave the story, you can do it in such a way. I did it with my group. I had a player that most important cardinal rule of D&D: never split up the party.
Don't go off by yourself.
Never go by yourself. And sure enough, that's exactly what it did. In Skagit, you'll be really happy it was the monk. And so for the better part of about 4 sessions, I think, Jay, it was?
Yeah, he wasn't playing that character. That character was captured. He learned a lesson quickly.
Part of the overall story and so forth. So it once again, you got to know, like I said, you got to know what your players are capable of and what story it is you're trying to actually do to run it in that typical direction.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else want to contribute a little bit to that discussion on it? Anna?
For me, it's very much like when the players are bored, that's when I railroad.
Yeah.
But I also try to, like almost everything, I try to solve it in game. Something happens, something like the Death Knight come running through town to go somewhere, and the players take it, debate, and go for it. That was actually not railroaded. That was actually something that was an event that he was going to a battle that the characters knew about. So to go about, bored players makes me feel like I'm forced to railroad, meaning ramp up the action. Something needs to happen, and so on. So that to me is number one. That's really the only thing that I see that I need to railroad. If I have bored players that don't seem to want to play, or they have no real ideas, or they kind of fumbling around, and if and it might be that I only have one player who's really interested, and I have like running something, and the whole campaign revolves around it, and 3 other players are sitting on the sidelines, so to speak. Then I need to kind of grab their attention by something happening, so to speak.
But I think that, Jay, you were kind of into the question a little bit. I mean, the wording of railroading is often said or looked upon kind of in a negative way.
Yeah, instead of leading by the nose.
Yeah, but as a GM, you often kind of, as Anna was saying, lead them into other stuff. I mean, if you see that the players are not at all understanding the concept of how to get past a certain door, you might do something that will glimmer in the corner of their eye, and they, maybe a key would do. Whatever it is that you need to push them to go forward or to another place. I think that's kind of just reading the moment, seeing if this is where we need to move, or this is not the part of the pacing of the game. So it's about knowing the players, I think.
Yeah, and if they're going off on a tangent, there's ways of redirecting. I mean, there's absolute ways. I mean, look what they did in the Hunger Games. I'm just kidding. There's ways of doing it, man. Whether it's a monster or whether it's a storm or whatever, and getting them moved in the direction you want to move them in. Just got to be a little creative with it and be a little sneaky sometimes too. So, but that's with DMing for 6 months, you'll learn the ways that you don't want to be that dick DM. You know what I mean? That people don't want to play with. You want to be the DM. Wow, that was creative the way you did that. You know what I mean? That's what you want to be. So, if that makes sense, right? Ian, any other?
Yeah. If they don't stop that conquer several countries over, eventually one day he's going to be on their doorstep. So they can ignore him for as long as they want.
So,
and I kind of like the idea of the world clock or the NPC clock.
Yeah.
No matter what you are doing at this present day, this present time as a player, everyone else doesn't freeze up. Everyone else is actually doing something.
Yep.
And if you approach said house or castle or whatever, you as a GM has to think, what have they done all the way up, leading up to this? Have they actually been scouting? Have they had spies in your camp or whatever it is? All the PCs, or the NPCs rather, are also developing. They have got a new intel. They know stuff. They develop the world clock, always work, and depending on what you do, that just evolves continuously. And that is something that I often kind of ask myself when I'm GMing. Do this NPC actually by now know what is happening, or if this thing is more in play now, or can I drag this into play? Or the world clock always evolves. That's kind of what it comes from.
I must say that I totally agree with Gabbin on this one, and that is in itself when my players find that out, that the campaign will relentless go on, so they need to kind of ramp up the pace. They don't have that much time, and because the enemy is gathering, and they kind of ramp up if you're going to storm that castle, you have to do it quickly, because they know they build the defenses constantly, so to speak. So that I think that's really important. As soon as the players don't realize this is not a canned adventure, that whenever they feel like it, they don't go around buffing for a month and then storm the castle, because it's if you go around in town and buy up all the magic stuff and all the things like that, someone will pay notice.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. Back in the days, the shortest kind of descriptive part is anyone who had an Amiga or played the Moonstone game. You played like a knight and whatever it was, but you could attack different sides, 4 different corners. If you started in one corner, each of the other 3 actually grew stronger. So if you chose to go here, the other parts just grew stronger. And if you took the second one, the other 2 just continuously grew stronger. So you had to mentally go for which part is easiest to leave and get to like tier 4 hard, if that makes sense. And that is kind of a interesting way to, if the evil, whatever it is, entity just runs past you and now it's level 20 and you're like, level 5. How am I supposed to kind of catch up? And that is kind of a cool story in its own.
Owen knows this already. I have like a calendar, a physical like clock actually, and it's color coded. So it's got my 2 parties in the game world, and they've been like my players have seen it and been like, oh, so this is what the other group was doing at this exact time. It's got all these notes that they don't see, but what the evil wizard Calathese was up to at this exact point of time.
He dead though.
Well, Owen, that was a great question. See, there was no, that was a fantastic question. I know we're running very late here, so plug time. Let's talk about our channels real quick. We'll start with Ian. Go for it on your channel number.
Our channel is For Steady D&D. You can see in the 15 following channels over here.
Yeah, that we follow you, and
We stream on Fridays and on Saturdays, and then on Wednesdays, Owen has his game on our channel.
What time?
That is 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Pacific time.
Pacific, so 10 Eastern. Okay.
Yeah.
Great, and they're good shows. Like I said, I try and find the miniature partners and stuff, and I love watching them. So they're fantastic shows. Skagith, how about you?
I'm more a European person, so here it's 3:58 a.m.
Yes.
So,
I'm amazed.
Yes, thank you, Skagith, for hanging in there.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you.
So I do some games. I do Mondays and Fridays now.
Okay.
And stream RPGs.
Excellent. Well, and the good thing about you is you're on in the afternoon for us. So if I'm working at my home office, I can catch you, which is good. And I lurk all the time on Skagith's channel. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anna, what do you got cooking? We know it's a lot. So.
Yeah, just read it my website. It's ghmaps.net, and I'll see if I can post it in chat.
Great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and so I just revamped it, and my Patreon, I'm kind of relaunching a lot of things. My Flanny's map has been updating and stuff, and I will also be on with Mike Bridges on Legends and Lore in a couple of weeks. We're going, let's see, what was it, hang on a second here. On the February 7th will be, that's when we start the spring season, the new season on Legends and Lore. And
Excellent.
I will also start streaming on my own channel as well. That will be announced on my website. That will also probably be 2 or maybe 3 weeks. Yeah.
And
You
so,
guys need to look at that finesse map.
yeah, well, you know what Anna did for us, right?
Yeah.
Anna edited our map for us, and it's just fantastic. So, Mark, tell us about your group on the Lord Gazumba channel, please.
Okay, so my group is, like I said, we're a 1E, 2E group. It's practically brand new. We've only been playing together for just a couple of years now, a little bit under 2. And so they still have just a singular group, singular set of characters. Jay actually started playing with us as well remotely so that he can kind of feel what my pain is. I hope, when I play on Thursdays in our main group. But basically, it's like you're talking about the world clock. So Jay and I have synchronized a lot of types of things that are going on between these two groups because it's happening inside of the same world. So effectively, they are in the same areas that our Thursday night group goes into. And what I've actually been doing is I found a really good series that I like. I was running Rescue at Ribbon Roar, which was a 4E adventure, and Siege of Orphan's Watch, which is what we're actually doing and should be finishing up.
Finale tomorrow night.
I'm sorry?
Finale tomorrow night.
Yeah, finale tomorrow night. So they're right in the midst of a humongous fight in a cavern that is stoked with a lot of fire. So
What time?
Right now, so they're kind of fighting time as well as fighting a whole bunch of orcs and growlings and stuff. So
And he starts early.
yeah. So we start at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and go to about 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A lot of real great role play between players. Like I said, a lot of newbies, so it's
A lot of giggling. A lot of giggling on there.
Yep.
So, once again, thanks everyone for joining in on this conversation. All the DMs that really took a lot of their time out. I really appreciate this. This was by far our most successful broadcast ever. So thank you very much for that. And we're going to do another one 6 months from now. We'll probably do one every 6 months, I think, on this. Some updates for us. Number one, Anna and I, down the road after GaryCon, will be getting together and probably on Anna's channel. She's going to be building our custom city of Altamira that we have on our map from scratch over the course of 2019. So that I'm looking forward to down the road. I can't wait for that. That's going to be great. Two, and we're all talking about that coming up. Thursday night, we continue our adventure. Beginnings at Winchester's Bulwark, where we're doing a new group of first. There's a lot of them returning second now. And this one is Rescue at Salty Bogs. So they're going to a halfling community to find this guardian who went missing, and that's what we'll be doing on Thursday night, and that's 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Next Sunday, our Gabbin show, we are off for the Super Bowl. Sorry, but it's on for sports fans, so we're off for the Super Bowl. But the week after, I have to really plug this. Brian Blumklotz will be my special guest. Brian Blumklotz runs Greyhawk Online. He's Saracenus for any of you who have been on our Discord server. And he is the heraldry master. Our new symbol in the upper left-hand corner, he created for us. This is the tip of the iceberg. I have been sitting on all of these new heraldry symbols he did for our entire knighthood, the Order of Ulick, for all our locations. He's even working on making up a knighthood chain for induction, one of those, and he's working on that as well. And we have another surprise that I'll save, but that will be 2 weeks from tonight. We're going to do Greyhawk heraldry. He'll go over the history of heraldry and how a knighthood should operate with heraldry, and then we'll show our new heraldry that he created. I'm so excited about that. And then the big thing of them all is March 23rd is and I've been working on this for months, and finally got this approval from Will, and the Greyhawk channel will be participating. Our 16-hour Greyhawk mega stream. It'll be for St. Jude's Hospital. It's going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning and run all the way through to midnight. 4 hours each channel. Will's starts at 8. Story's going to be about an orb of the dragon kind. Mark's going to pick up with his group at noon. Shane will pick up at his group at 4 p.m. And I will finish up with the biggest fight I've ever done at 8 p.m. that night, and we will until we're done. And hopefully we're going to raise a lot of money for charity. But we really want to get Greyhawk out there to everyone, and this is how we're going to do it in this mega stream event. And Anna's actually going to participate with our group. We're trying to figure out a way to get some of our great subscribers in on the game too, and we're working on that as well. So thanks a lot, everyone, for sharing with us. Thank you. I appreciate it. And if anyone wants to, any of you guys want to chat, everyone, don't have to log off. I'm going to go to our exit screen, and this was a blast. I mean, this was so great. And don't be shy on all these channels. Please support all the channels you see on here tonight. Thank you. We're trying to make it a community group here. We want to add in as many as we can. That's why I reached out to Nightheart Gaming. I liked what they were doing with miniatures, so I reached out to them. And thank you all. And it's been a great one. From Anna, Skagath, Ian, Owen, Mark, Tim, and Will, who both had to leave, and myself. Don't worry about the edition you're playing. Just play. Dungeons & Dragons should be all inclusive for everyone. It doesn't matter. Edition, campaign game. Have fun with it. So I'm gonna run our mega stream and then our exit screen. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon. See you tomorrow night. Mark's finale. Have a good one.
Bye.
Whoa.
Seven.
Whew. Oh, can we be heard right now? I think
It's okay. We do it all the time.
Okay.
We do it all the time. We do it all the time, man. That's okay.
That was great. Thank you.
And it was
Awesome.
fantastic.
And yeah, thank you everyone. That was yeah. Thank you, Skagga, for being up so late or early in the morning. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's 4:06 now.
Yeah.
That's no problem. It was a really fun experience and fun time.
Hang on, I got it. My throat's killing me. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I have to leave here too. Okay. Grabbing plates out the kitchen and stuff, and my mother and a friend of mine and hers are from Sweden. They're visiting me, so they're kind of, you're hungry.
Yeah, my dog was making the attention-seeking yawns, so.
awesome.
Don't worry about it. Like I said, I have it happen all the time with mine.
It was
Well, I have the biggest one. It's 7 a.m. here, so I need to sleep.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jay. This was awesome. I loved it. So yeah, and we talk soon. And yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'm probably gonna go too.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Yeah. All right.
All right.